Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter One Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathaniel Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
Season
What's
2,
up,
baby.
Everybody.
Season
We're getting
2.
fancy. We got this is season 1. That was the last season was the pilot.
Yeah.
Where we kind of like working out all the kinks.
Yeah.
And now this is like the official launch of season 1.
Yeah.
And now we're a real podcast.
And who better
Yeah, but obviously.
Are we
than
back?
Mr. Gavin Schaefer?
That was honestly,
everybody.
that was the reasons the preseason lasted so long. We were like, well, when can we get Gavin on?
Exactly.
He's a busy man.
It's hard to get a hold.
I'm
Hard to
glad-
get a hold of your agent.
I'm glad I could fit you guys into my schedule, honestly.
He's made time for us, and we appreciate
We
it.
do appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're really happy that Gavin's here. We're honestly just happy to be back, right?
Oh, we're
Yeah,
stoked.
it's good.
How
It feels
great
good.
is it?
It feels good to be back. I
in the
missed my
studio?
first ever. I'll tell the story. I was getting ready. I was making dinner before I came over, and I was using my new wok, which is extremely heavy, like heavier than I thought it was when I bought it.
Wait, so this is not today. You're
No,
talking
this
about
is
why
the
you
Chris-
missed
why I
last
missed the Christmas-
episode.
the Christmas
So these are
podcast.
excuses.
No,
Okay,
no,
continue.
Yeah, definitionally.
I hurt my back cooking on my wok. That's the short story. And then I finished. I was like, okay, it's time to go. And I was like, yeah. it
And
was-
guess who stepped up?
stepped up. No,
and
and I appreciate
carried
you. I
this
just
ship.
want to say, the Hebrew Hammer.
Not you.
I'm
Oh,
glad that you
big time,
guys. Now, obviously,
time.
it's like a wacky movie. It's weird. If you're not Jewish, a lot of it doesn't make sense. But I appreciate you guys for bearing with me and watching it and enjoing it for what it was, which is like a schlocky, ridiculous, absurd movie.
The greatest part about that episode is that Nathaniel made us watch The Hebrew Hammer, which is some just abruptly Jewish film.
Like, we needed him there to talk about that
he
movie.
was gone. We had to sit
I
there.
thought you guys did a good job.
Okay.
We're trying not to
as good a
get
job
canceled.
as I would expect some goys to do. So.
We were trying not to get canceled.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you can't really throw in any quotes from that movie because I'd forgotten how offensive it was.
Yeah.
But it's pretty off color. I find it very funny. There are parts that like drag on too long, but for the most part, it's funny too because I've only watched it like 2 or 3 times, but they go through so many different film styles and things that they're clearly blatantly rip off. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was funny.
It's
It was
very
funny.
much like a watch it once a decade movie.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch.
It's unique. It's
It
much
is-
different
yeah,
than a
it is
lot of movies
utterly
I've seen
unique.
recently.
You're not going to see a whole lot like it, and the way they beat, like the basic premise of Santa Claus trying to ruin Hanukkah by giving out bootleg copies of It's a Wonderful Life. Like, come on, that's pretty funny.
It's a good
All right.
premise.
Well, contrary to what Nathaniel might wish, we are not talking about the Hebrew Hammer today. So we are officially. This is season 2. We are officially done with Disney movies. Can we just get a really big round of applause for?
Well, that was the issue. Gavin refused to watch the Disney
Yeah,
movies.
Gavin
He
was
said,
like
"Bring me on
DreamWorks
when it's
only,
in."
so and we were like, how we don't have time to watch all 5 Shrek movies, so we had to do.
Me and Disney have been going through a little bit of rough patch last
Oh,
year.
I think everybody
we
in
went through a
Disney.
real rough patch. I was like fine with Disney, and then we watched some of the newer movies. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go resuscitate Walt Disney's frozen corpse and
Yeah.
be like, you see what's happening here?
We've been trying to get Gavin on for months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
When
it's
was that
been-
night at Monday Night Brewing?
it's-
That was
That was
literally like
3-4 months ago.
It was last year. It was,
You're like, yeah,
it was
man, we'll
more.
have you on.
It was in 20
we
sometime in 2023. It was a year
agreed,
ago.
and then just radio
I
silence.
handed him the payment then, and
Yeah.
he was just
He just took the money and
and
ran.
he said, if it's Disney,
And
I'm out.
then he got the letter from his lawyer saying, "No, you are legally obligated to fulfill his contract. You have to show up."
Sucks.
Well, we're glad he's here today, and we get to talk about a really cool movie. At least I think it's a cool movie, but we'll get everybody's thoughts shortly. We are talking about Moneyball today. If you have not seen it, this is the Brad Pitt Oakland Athletics. I guess it's considered a bio. It's not really. I mean,
It's like Remember the Titans. It's a
like-
dramatization of a real story that
yeah,
actually
it's,
happened.
it's a sports movie. It's pretty excellent.
Well, I feel like most sports movies, if they're not like the really schlocky, like Air Bud and Mighty Ducks,
Wait,
are based
Air Bud's-
on real sport.
Whoa.
Wait, oh, sorry.
Whoa.
Airbud's not based on
Sorry,
a
sorry.
real dog.
Not like Air Bud, like Air Bud 2. Are based on.
Okay, there you go. Is that the one where he plays volleyball?
There's like 9 of those. They kept making them. I'm like, we should look up at some point what sports Air Bud has played.
What can't he do?
Yeah, what can't?
I
Well,
think it was proven he can do everything.
I think at some point his kids take over.
Can't do taxes.
Okay, so I know there was
can't do
like
your
World
taxes.
Cup, so he played soccer. I know he did soccer. I know he did baseball. I think he did volleyball.
he did volleyball. He did football. I can envision
Did your
him
dad
in
show
it.
you that movie
He
growing
definitely
up?
did football because
did all
there's
the-
a
Yeah, I think he
scene-
did.
Is that
actually.
what got you into volleyball?
Yeah, I said this dog's sick, but I think I could be even better.
And that's
Wait.
how you ended up at Belmont.
I'm like 7 times as tall as a golden retriever. I can do this.
If he can do it, I can.
Guys,
That
what
is why if you ever watch Liam play volleyball, he starts out on all fours. It's very weird. He's like, it's the only way I know.
distracting. It's really distracting to
Yeah.
the opposition.
guys, what kind of dog can jump higher than a building?
It's gonna be stupid.
Hold on. I'm trying to think of dog.
Chat.
Breeds.
What kind of dog can jump higher than a building?
Not mine.
Not Toby.
Not Toby.
Any kind of dog. Buildings can't jump.
That was that
dumb.
kind of joke.
So
Anyways,
dumb.
all right. So before we get into this awesome
Lost
movie,
viewers.
we and we're
your
excited
10
to talk
viewers.
about it. Let's meet our guests a little bit. So, Liam, why don't you tell us a little bit about Gavin, and Gavin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
This is my dear friend Gavin Schaefer. We go way back. Played volleyball together at Belmont Abbey. Former volleyball player.
Wow.
Is this how
Former-
it's
I
going to
say
be? That,
former
that
'cause he doesn't play
It's going to
anymore.
be me and then a bunch of people you guys have played volleyball with.
It's gonna be. It's gonna be a rotating,
door of volleyball players.
Tall volleyball
This
players
is my
coming in and out of here.
There's a height limit.
This is my
There's a-
friend.
there's a height
He also
requirement
Yeah,
to get
you must be
volleyball.
at least this tall, and you must have played at least this much volleyball
Yeah.
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Big. I mean, I think we introduced this in the last episode, but this was Gavin's selection of movie was
Yes.
Moneyball. So this is that's typically what we're going to try to do is have the guests pick the movie and then we all watch it and then collectively talk about it. But Gavin, big sports guy, loves the banter about sports. We'll get into his baseball thoughts in general,
One of my
as well
favorites.
as the movie. Good guy, was in his wedding a couple months ago,
Wow.
actually. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Mazel tov.
Just got married.
He did all right.
But
Oh, I thought you were talking about your wedding. Man, of all the weddings I've had, it was like 4th, 5th best.
Yeah.
Like it was
Mackenzie's
all right.
not watching. You're good.
7 out of 6. 7 out of 7.
This is a safe space.
So, Gavin, tell us what you do here. So you're here in Charlotte. Obviously, you live here. You
Yep.
just got married. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Introduce Chat to you.
Moved here about 3 years ago. I live in Charlotte with my wife Mackenzie, 2 dogs, Toby and Tucker. I'm in sales for a full-time job during the day, sports banter at night, and sports enthusiast. And looking forward to this because Moneyball is one of my favorite movies all time, and not just because it's sports related. I just love the premise. So
Yeah. Big Philly guy,
Excited.
too. That's the other thing I'll mention.
from,
Big.
from Pennsylvania originally, had a job opportunity to move down here, and it was something I couldn't pass up on. So it was perfect timing because I was looking to get out and try something new, and I love it. Everything's going good.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. So
Tired of the Eagles fans pooping on my lawn. Get them out of here.
Chat says.
Couldn't take it anymore.
Chat says, what kind of insurance is Liam selling today?
Oh, for the love of God, man. I knew it was coming. I'm actually surprised it took this long. And then it's a lose-lose because if I'm like, oh, I came straight from the office, then everyone's like, oh, cool, man. Nice flex. Like, oh, you're working late hours? That is where I came from.
Liam, who's our sponsor for today?
Yeah.
I just like to dress up when I'm in the presence of Mr. Schaefer. He has a very he was the former ambassador of Belmont Abbey.
Wow.
That's literally my title. Yeah.
The
ambassador
ambassador. I
was your
kid you
title?
not.
This
So
is impressive.
he's a regal man, and I just like to
Impress.
be impressive around him because he is so impressive.
He feels
himself.
smaller around me, is what he's saying.
I do.
Well, physically.
Both physically, certainly physically. Yeah.
We're all feeling a little better about ourselves now. Gavin's
Yeah.
here.
I don't play volleyball, so I don't have to worry about being tall. I'm not like, this guy's a foot taller than me. He's just inherently better at certain parts of volleyball than I am. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
I'm not like, this guy's a foot taller than me. He's a better teacher than I am. Like, it's not really how it
Boy,
works.
you should have seen some of the blocks Gavin had in college, barely jumping.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Still can't jump.
Well, when you can reach over the net, I don't think you have
It doesn't
to.
matter. That's the thing.
Didn't matter.
That's my secret.
Yeah.
Chat's telling us to move closer to the mic.
How's this?
Gavin. No,
Wanted to
just,
make-
Who's chat? Call him out.
just Gavin.
That's my first time. here.
That's
Oh my
I think
gosh.
it's Seth. That's telling
Stop.
you.
You're gonna get. You're gonna get muted.
you guys know you
Daniel.
like this.
This is terrible. All right, so
is good audio.
So
It's
Liam,
quality.
why don't you start off by telling us what was your? Well, I mean, you've obviously seen this movie before. We got to watch it again.
This was
It
my
a
first
great
time watching the
night.
movie. Never seen it before.
Awesome. So
Thanks for the invite.
I think. I mean,
You were busy.
I would rely on Liam to extend that invite. He knows that my house is open to, like, I'm just more happy if more people are around.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm aware.
100%.
I've been invited to UFC night.
Okay, and you just haven't gone.
I was probably busy.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's
Couldn't
why
fit it.
we
He
were
was like, I
well,
can either
he's-
go to UFC night or I could be on the podcast.
we're
Yeah.
like, we can't handle him saying no to us again, so
Yeah.
we're not even gonna.
So Liam, tell us your thoughts about this movie. We got to watch it recently. What do you think? Do you like this movie, Moneyball?
Oh man, I second Gavin's point. This is quite literally one of my favorite movies ever, and I know you guys give me heat for saying these things all the
I mean, you
time.
do like every good movie. You say this is my favorite movie of all time.
But this one's no, but this one's real.
We're gonna.
This is the problem.
No, here's what we're gonna have to do. At
I
some
know what the
point-
problem is.
no.
I know what you're gonna say.
Here's what we do, and we're just gonna say. We're just going to have Liam give us a list of his top 10 movies, and we're just going to put it on the wall. So then when he says, this is one of my favorite, we'll be like, is it on the list?
15, 20.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It's
You
just
only get 10.
It's just now when Liam says a movie's like one of his favorite of all times, like the people that
I
actually
know.
like that movie are like,
I know. I know.
Great.
I
Now it
dig.
can't be my favorite anymore.
That's warranted.
Tainted.
I dig myself a hole because then there's no distinction between this and like.
so more importantly, why
It's a
don't you-
Wonderful
why don't
Life.
you tell us why you like this movie? Tell us.
So honestly, this movie is like tailor made for some of my main interests in life. Huge baseball fan. Played it growing up, but like more so like watching. Big Red Sox fan. There's a tie into the Red Sox, which is really cool.
Spoiler for the ending.
Spoiler,
Yeah,
I know.
thanks.
We'll get to it. at some
Viewers who
point.
haven't watched.
But like, just the idea of baseball is, I love it. I think it's a beautiful game. As I get older, I like it more and more. Gavin makes fun of me because I'll watch it. I'll watch pretty much at least parts of every single regular
Yeah,
season.
you won't
game.
watch. You'll watch every game.
I'll watch every game.
It's insane.
162 regular season games. I'm pretty tuned into all of them. So that on top of
wild.
It's absurd.
my work is as an analyst. I was a mathematics major in high school or in
the
college.
brag.
So this is sports analytics.
Where's the nerd button? I swear I have that button somewhere.
So you were sitting there dreaming that you were Jonah Hill,
Yeah,
that like that
honestly.
Matt Damon was gonna
Yeah.
walk into the hot tub,
Yeah.
that we were sitting and watching that movie in. Like he just walks into it and he's like, "Hey, Liam."
Did you say Matt Damon?
He said Matt Damon. I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh,
But
I said Matt Damon because I know that's your favorite actor.
it
and
is
I
my favorite
replaced-
actor.
I replaced,
and
I replaced him.
He's a Boston guy.
He would be better than
Bastard.
Brad Pitt in your fantasy, where
He
some
would, he
scout
would, he
comes
would.
and says, "Liam, I care about you."
Yeah, no question. But like, this is unequivocally is like a dream job for me to be a sports analyst, specifically for the Red Sox. But like, baseball is pretty ripe for analytics as a sport, like across the whole sport. So this is a dream job for me. Like ever since the first time I watched this movie when I was younger, I kind of, without exaggeration, started to like make moves in my like career and like education to hopefully get an opportunity similar to what Jonah Hill does. Like
So you
that's
would-
how impactful it was.
So then I have an inside baseball question for you.
What are you laughing
Your
at?
dream is
I've-
to be fat Jonah Hill.
If that's what it
You
requires,
started eating more.
if that's what it requires,
I give you some, I
will
give some pointers
sacrifice
there.
it.
The diet was absurd.
2 words: Taco Bell.
I might go there later tonight, to be honest. But
So I have an inside baseball question for you.
yeah, hit me.
So my younger brother is big sports aficionado. So he's a Braves fan, but he just enjoys watching sports. But so in my conversation with him, I picked up on the outfield shift.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? So for people who don't watch a lot of baseball,
It's
and you can correct
interesting.
me if I'm wrong on this.
Go ahead, yeah.
But they have so many statistics on where people hit the ball. They say, okay, 99% of the time the ball is going to go here if this guy hits it. So they just move everyone there to get a better chance of getting him out. How do you feel about that?
So that's a great call out because it's like a dichotomy between the love, like the purist aspect of baseball, right? Like that is so analytics driven that it's almost taking away from some of the beautiful elements of the game, but also the push to further analytics opens up job opportunities for people like me who want to get into there. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. If I had to say, so what they're doing, not to get too inside baseball, is they are like making rules to limit
Yeah.
analytics in a way, like the shift rule. You aware of the shift rule, Gab? This year, it's something along the lines of like you have to have your infield, 2 of them have to be on either side of second base.
Right, so like giving them, assigning them zones, so you can't just like be like, well, he always hits it down the third baseline, so everyone's going to stand behind third base.
Exactly. So like they're starting to implement stuff like that. Like you could still shift up until second base, but like there was times before like all 4 of the infielders were like over on the right hand side of the field.
As a result of people doing all
Big
those shifts,
Papi.
did switch hitters become more valuable?
Yeah. I would have to imagine they would. And also, it's so like interesting to watch a guy like David Ortiz. For anybody who knows that is Ryan Howard. Like you're like, why can't you just hit it the other way?
Oh yeah.
Like you're
So frustrating.
you're so good at baseball.
Yeah.
You can't just like wait like a split second, just hit it. It's wide open. But they never do.
Well, even like,
They're
even
Hall
like
of
in the
Famers,
movie,
so-
they touched on that where they're like sitting down with the guy, and Jonah Hill's like, when you hit it high and inside,
Yep, that's
you
your
got,
pitch.
You got like 0.875, and when it's slowing out, you got like 10%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it's only growing since that. That was what, 2003?
Yeah.
It's only grown analytics in the game. But I mean, for all those reasons, on top of the phenomenal story and actors
Yeah.
and score.
And some people would say to the advantage or the disadvantage of a lot of teams. So
Yeah.
like, some guys let it like cloud their minds.
Oh, yeah.
That's all they do.
It's mental, yeah.
Gabe Kapler, shout out Seth.
What, they just like shut down because of stuff? Or are you saying they could? Like,
He was like the analytics king. He was all he would
As
do.
a coach, right?
Everything.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
was analytics driven.
yeah.
Always.
Well,
Yeah, sabermetrics.
I mean, that's definitely something to talk about too, though. Is and we'll get to that later. Is the accuracy of this movie and
I will say that as I'm watching, because I was watching it on Amazon Prime, so it had the little X-ray.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, oh, they messed this up, but like half of it was like, well, you know, this game wasn't played at night. I'm like, why?
Oh, did it
so
really?
what?
Why does that matter?
Yeah, it's like, no, I want to hear like, oh, that actually this person was actually 10 feet tall and blue, but they for some reason they didn't have that part.
That
Right.
is funny that Amazon does that.
So, Gavin, you brought this movie to us. I know that you're a baseball background type guy. I mean, Liam tells me you love baseball. So, what
Favorite sport.
So, is it just the baseball that carries it? What else about the movie did you like?
I think the way that, sports movies in general, I think when they do too much of the gameplay, I think the movie's not good. Like, I remember growing up, a lot of people, when I was, it was like elementary school, middle school, Invincible came out, the football movie that Disney made about Vince Papale. There was probably 7 minutes of total football in that whole movie. The movie's awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Amazing. Yeah.
And then I remember everyone our age, at my age at the time, was like, that movie sucked. There was no football. There was no hitting. There was like one time when they actually played a game. And I'm like, it's not the point of the movie.
It's like that's what Sundays are for
Yeah,
during
right.
NFL season.
It's like,
You
that's
watch
the one
football
thing.
then.
Yeah, but I think the whole idea of Billy Beane as an underdog, that really speaks to a lot of people. I feel like anytime you have an underdog in a movie, people just gravitate towards them, and guys who think outside the box and trying something new and going against the grain. And when it works, it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You're rooting for people like that because the establishment or the way that people in baseball. They had Joe Morgan's voice coming in all the time as a commentator, being like, "This isn't how baseball's played.
Yeah.
Can't win a game with a
I
piece of
thought
paper."
that the way they did that added so much authenticity where because several times, like to your point, they didn't show a ton of baseball, but they had a ton of these intercuts where you were just listening to sports talk radio,
And that's one
you're
where
just listening
like,
to them bash.
This was in
PAs.
2003, so I'm wondering how much of that, because like the opening, a lot of the opening footage was like actual baseball
Yeah.
footage from the game. So I'm wondering how much of that like the radio stuff was also just recorded like records, like
Yeah.
actual.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah, it would.
Well, but also like to the point of, so I'm not a big baseball guy, and I love this movie, and I think there's an element to it that this movie does really well, where it's like you don't necessarily have to know what baseball is to really enjoy this movie. Like I think it. Like it shows, like for all I know, that's how GMs meet with each other or owners meet with each other. Where he goes and he's like sitting in that room with Mark Shapiro or whatever, and they're just kind of like spitballing. He's like, "Hey, what about this guy?" He's like, "No, I don't want to trade that guy." And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, maybe that's actually how it works.
Like the casualness of like multi-million-dollar decisions.
But to Gavin's point, the whole underdog thing is what it really does is it brings me into the situation brings me into hey, this is what baseball is, and then kind of like whispers like, hey, you could get this too. Like nobody's paying attention. You could do things this way. You could just start analyzing players. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I got this.
Right.
Like, and so I think it does a really good job at not just shoehorning itself into being a sports movie and saying, if you love baseball, you're going to like this movie. Because I don't think you have to love baseball at all to like this movie.
Right.
agree.
And I think especially because it's tied around someone like the A's, who's just never, just such a small market team. They don't have good resources and everything else. Like if this story was about like the Yankees, everyone would be like,
Yeah, no,
And
not
they
really
introduce it
impressive.
right away,
Yeah,
right?
people are probably pissed off if it
They
was
show the
Yankees, yeah.
graphics where they're like, right. It's like it's one of the first
That's one of
scenes
the
in the
first
movies.
scenes, yeah.
It shows the payroll of
114 million versus 39 million.
and it's crazy. And for those of you that don't know baseball, so baseball is different than basketball and football, where you don't really have a cap of any kind of money, right? So if your team just wants to throw more money,
It's your owners.
if your
super
owner is like,
wealthy.
hey,
Yeah, it's your
I
owners,
wanna-
it's your revenue. So bigger teams get bigger budgets and can afford
and you can
better
quite
players.
literally
Yeah,
just
in some sense.
Right.
buy better players, where in other leagues they at least try to do this. Sometimes there's ways to get around it, but you'll put a cap and say every team can spin up to this much, and most every team does, and so you get a relatively even playing field. Whereas in baseball, you get 100, whatever the differentiate was, like 115
Yeah,
to
like
35
About
million.
triple the budget.
Which is just insane. So yeah, to your point, I mean, yeah, I think it clearly establishes that right off the bat that this
Yeah,
is an
they
underdog
established
story.
very, very early that they got to the World Series, they lose, and then right after that, all their best players get poached by teams with more money.
Because of course.
Yeah.
Because like these guys made their
Yeah,
name.
they made their name,
And now they're gonna
they
get
got
their
to the World
bag.
Series, and now they're like, okay, sweet. Now I can get big ticket major leagues, like
Yeah.
a real major league team, not one that can only pay me so much.
Not one that makes you pay $1 for soda at the vending machine.
That's still like one of my just little favorite little
It's
snaps in the
unbelievable,
whole
man.
movie.
It's unbelievable.
So, like, give a brief synopsis, Gavin, on just like the rest of the story. I know we kind of like ran around it a little bit. Spoilers ahead, just kind of like give an overview.
Spoilers for
and
something
then-
that
and then
happened in
we'll talk about-
2003.
and
In
then
real
we'll-
life.
we'll talk
Literally
about the different-
21 years
different
ago.
points.
A couple things. 2002.
So 22 years ago.
And
2002 was the year?
yes.
So 2001 was the year they
Correct.
lost
with
all their
Damon
guys.
and Giambi, yeah.
Gotcha.
And then also they lost in the ALDS to the Yankees.
That's right.
All right, I'm
Game
going to
five.
ask a weird question. I think I recognize the name Jason Giambi.
Oh,
You
was he
probably-
in Backyard Baseball?
Yes, he was.
Probably.
Okay, there you go. That's
Right
why
next to
that's
Pablo.
why- okay, so yeah, him
Yeah.
and I remember Randy Johnson. Randy
great.
Johnson
That is
was the best
amazing.
because he had the wildest pitches, and then his bat was like that big, so his strike zone was huge, but his bat hit half the strike zone.
I love it.
Backyard
That's your,
baseball,
your
fantastic.
reference. Your
That's
reference.
fantastic.
Your reference.
I used to watch baseball.
Yeah.
yeah.
I just remember I picked the Orioles as my team to cheer on because my dad was a Yankees fan. Couldn't possibly like the Red Sox. And my younger brothers are Braves fans. So I was like, well, I'll pick the team none of you guys are rooting for.
Some random team.
Some random team. I don't think they're very good.
So the movie basically kicks off with, like you were mentioning, the team going to be gutted. They're going to lose their best players. Billy Beane, the GM, who the movie's wrapped around, Brad Pitt, goes and meets with the Oakland Athletics owner and basically says, I need more money. I can't do this without more money. And he said, you're going to work within the constraints that we have. You're going to do it the way we always have. So he goes to Cleveland and tries to trade for some players, basically gets shut down, asking for like 4 different players. And like you said, if that's how interactions are, that's hilarious.
It's
I love
amazing.
I can
Who-
see that
who,
being
Who gets
real.
on a plane from Oakland, flies to Cleveland for a 5-minute meeting where you go, nah. All right.
So yeah.
Yeah, good talking to you. All right, yeah.
nuts.
But then he meets Peter Brand in the Cleveland Indians office there, who during the meeting basically whispered something to one of the assistant GMs and ultimately led to the GM saying no to the trades. And then Billy Beane hunts him down in the bullpen, which I think is hilarious. Basically forces him to go out to the parking garage like he's going to murder him. And then he explains to him the whole Bill James analytics idea behind you shouldn't be buying wins, you should be buying runs,
Yeah.
right? And this is how you get that. And later that night, they show Billy Beane drunk in his bed, sipping on whiskey, and he calls him at like 3 in the morning and says, I just bought you from the Cleveland Indians.
Pack your bags, Pete.
Pack your bags, Pete. Coming to
Pack your bags,
yeah.
Pete.
And then from there, they basically just start doing things completely differently. They start looking at players more analytically, doing player analysis, and finding value that other people are overlooking in terms of they were saying. And they kind of go on from there, trying to become as successful as they can. And it's just an absolute dumpster fire from the beginning, and everyone's against them.
And that's
all this-
because the team manager is not playing the people in the positions that they're telling him to.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And even the scouts for the team, there's just a general feel of this guy is losing his mind, and even though he is our boss, nobody agreed. Like, it's contentious.
Correct.
Nobody agrees.
Yeah. So, I mean, these sitting in a room of like 12, 15 scouts, all old dudes sitting there in their 60s, and they've been doing it the same way for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Billy
scene.
Bean, it's phenomenal. Billy Bean comes in and basically says, "This is who we're taking. This is why. I don't give a rat's, you know what I mean, about it. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna take all these guys, and we're not gonna pay them any money. And this is what we're doing. So
We're trying to recreate Giambi in the aggregate.
You guys act like we're looking for Fabio.
yeah,
Who's Fabio?
Fabio.
That scene, can we touch on that scene a little bit?
phenomenal. Yeah.
Me and Greg were watching it, and we were like, it's entirely possible these are not actors. Like, these are just baseball scouts
You guys
who
wanna know-
actually.
you want to know something crazy?
What?
They're not. They're actual scouts.
No way.
Yes, the guy with the hearing aid was a third base coach that got attacked by fans.
What?
And has severe hearing damage after getting attacked by fans. You can go watch the video. He's a real third base coach.
Like, was he
That's
an MLB base coach?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I forgot what the team was, but that room, there's only 3 of them that are actually actors in that room.
That is.
And 2 of them are Brad Pitt.
And Jonah Hill.
No, just it's 2 Brad Pitt.
2 Brad
Brad Pitt
Pitts.
counts for 2, and the Jonah Hill.
But
Right.
it was
Total
funny
3
because
actors.
There you go.
as we were watching and as the scene's coming up, even before the movie, I was like, Liam, like that scene in the movie is so authentic. Like when he walks in there and just the way that these guys are talking.
The banter is-
Yes,
It's so funny.
I was like, there's no way
He's
these
the guy
are
who walks into the
actual
room and his
actors.
dick's been there for 2 hours. I'm like, what is this man talking about?
Well, and then like that was another thing I found looking that up is that some of even the comments where there's guys saying, oh, like he's got an ugly girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that
those
mean?
were those were taken from real conversations that Billy Bean had talked about.
is unbelievable.
Although he did admit he's like the ugly girlfriend comment wasn't it didn't have anything to do with confidence. It had to do with like bad eyesight. They were like
That's even funnier.
they were like clearly
That's even better.
clearly he doesn't have good eyesight. He's
That's
seen his
even funnier.
girlfriend, and Billy was just like, oh my gosh, and he said that in one of the interviews.
Yeah.
Is Billy Bean still?
No.
He's retired, or is he?
I don't know what he's doing, but he's not working for the A's. I know that. He got,
Because at the end of the movie, it says I think it says
he got
he's
let
still-
go in like 2016. I think.
okay.
Yeah, he was working for them for a long time. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what he's up to.
You don't know what he's doing
Moneyball
now.
became too much Moneyball.
Well, apparently, according to the X-ray from Amazon in 2012, they with their budget they had a similar thing where they were super successful and they called it it was called the Moneyball 2 season.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually.
So sorry,
I didn't either.
Continue.
Thank you, Amazon X-ray.
Continue with the movie.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so from there, basically, they bring in all these misfit toys to play on their baseball team. They go to spring training, and it's a complete dumpster fire, like I was saying. Jeremy Giambi's out of shape. Scott Hatteberg's never played first base in his life. David Justice are the 3 guys that they highlight. And David Justice is old. I think he's like 36 years old, 37 years old at the time. And that is one of the craziest things, too, because the Yankees actually paid half of his salary to get rid of him.
That's a great scene in the movie.
is.
I forget the exact quote, but it's like
Yeah.
I think it's him talking to
he's like-
David in the batting cage.
Yeah.
Where
He's like, I'm making $7 million. I think I know what I'm working. He's like,
No, they ain't.
no, yeah. Yankees.
He's like,
the
you're
Yankees are
paying
paying. The Yankees are paying $3.5 million to not have you.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that's where David Justice bought in.
Yeah.
because he's like, shit.
They start going to the season. Obviously, it's not working at all. I think they're like 20-30 at this point. And they go meet with the owner, and they're like, the sample size is just too small. Keep
Classic statistician.
the faith. And the owner looks clueless. He's sitting there like, you know what I mean? He's like, well, what's stopping you? And he's like, nothing. You know, that's why we're here. That's why we get up every day. And then eventually, Billy starts going AWOL because the manager wasn't playing the team how Billy wanted to play based on analytics. So he just starts cutting and trading people.
Yeah.
So he gets rid of Giambi. He trades Carlos Pena, who was an all-star in the movie, and I guess in real life.
He's good. No, he's good. I remember
He was
Carlos
good,
Pena.
right? He played for the Tigers, right?
Played for
Yeah,
the
so he was an
Rays a
all-star.
little bit too, I think.
So, starts moving people around to force the lineup to be played. So the manager really had no other options. And then it starts working, and things start clicking. And then they go into basically, I'd say, probably like a 15-minute stretch of like the streak, right?
Yeah.
That's like a
Yeah, I
big.
think
That's
it's
like
accurate.
I guess you would consider like the climax of the movie.
Is that
think
still
so.
the current record?
I don't believe so.
It's 2020.
It was
don't
20.
believe so.
21,
it was
right?
21.
I thought
Yeah.
for some reason, I thought the Indians broke it.
Couldn't tell you.
You mean the Native Americans?
Ask me if
The Guardians. The Guardians. I'm sorry.
Wait, did they actually change the name?
They did. I swear.
So dumb.
They changed it to the Guardians.
Ask me if I care.
Do you care? I hope it's. I almost don't even want to look it up just so I can be like, yeah,
The Cleveland
they still got it.
Yeah.
Guardians.
Yeah.
It's like
Cleveland people.
the what was it? The Washington football team. That was one of my favorite part of Kimmy Schmidt is one of the characters' parents own the Washington Redskins, and so she's got Native American heritage. So she's like, it's offensive to my people. They're like, but it sells merchandise, and she's like, wait. It sells merchandise for obviously the fans are always going to buy the merch, but it also sells merchandise to the people that hate the team name so they can burn it. And so they changed the name to the Washington Gun Takers, and they start just breaking into cash.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
But after the streak, I mean, that's really the pivotal climax of the movie. The streak is when they win 21 straight games. Everything's the culmination of all the hard work and believing in themselves and what their new idea was. It worked. It worked. It worked. Mm-hmm. People are finally starting believing them, not just everyone who's an outsider, right? They win the AL West. They go to the playoffs. Unfortunately, they lose 3-2 in the first round to the Twins. But the end of the movie is awesome, in my opinion. It's one of the best endings because he chose to stay with Oakland instead of go to Boston, even though they were going to pay him $12.5 million or something like that.
Over a quarter of the entire Oakland Athletics budget.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
my
Yeah, think
gosh.
about that.
How do
Literally.
you pass it up,
Yeah.
man? I'm sorry.
Because he mentioned that he says exactly why. He said, I made my one decision for money, and I swore I'd never do it again.
yeah.
No,
No,
but-
respect, but
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
We were watching.
Okay,
it and
it's
Liam
not like
was
he's getting
squealing.
paid, $50,000 a year. He's still making money. He's not making $12.5
But your
million.
office,
Yeah.
your office building is Fenway Park.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
your office building.
Okay,
dude.
Boston's
Oakland's a-
fine.
Oakland's a
Boston's mid.
Yeah.
I'm saying this to you, Liam. Boston's a mid city. Clam chowder. I will say, clam chowder is like triple S tier good.
I'm not going to get into it. With
It's
you
so
right now.
good. The clam chowder is. I will
Finish the
sing the praises.
synopsis.
We'll take this offline. we're going to take this
End of the
offline.
movie's great after he comes back to
You and
Oakland.
me outside.
Yeah.
Like you said, never choose. He didn't want to make another decision based on money, and he was so frustrated. And Jonah Hill's character, Peter Brand, basically just pointed out, man, you did something special here.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that, you hit a home run and you didn't even realize it. You need to grasp this and take it and move, embrace it. You're basically dawning a new age of how baseball is going to be done. And you can do it here, basically. So
No, and he kind of comes together with a really cool really cool moment where he brings Billy, because Billy is like they've established him
video
as this
room.
they've established him as this character who really doesn't care about anything but like winning the final game. Like he just wants to win a championship. Even all this Moneyball stuff. He's not like he's kind of like he thinks it'd be great to change the game, but he thinks the only way he can do that is if he wins.
Right.
So really, the whole time he's just thinking win. So everybody else is just astonished at this streak, at the impressive performance of everybody, and he's like, "Hey, we're done. Not taking this new job, like whatever the case is." And Jonah Hill's character is like, "Hey, let me show you something." Go into the video room, and he shows him this video of like this overweight minor league player who cracks home runs all the time, but never rounds first. I mean, he's really overweight. And he hits this deep ball, and he's sprinting, and he rounds first base, and he just trips and falls. And it's horribly embarrassing. And Billy's like, "Oh, man, this is rough." And then he's like, well, he's realizing right now as he crawled back to first to touch the base that he actually hit the ball over the fence, that he hit a home run. And it's just like this super powerful moment that does exactly what Gavin says. I mean, for him, it's reflecting what Billy did, right? It's reflecting Billy thinking, "Oh, this was all a failure. I've got to crawl back to first," to being like, you don't realize that you actually hit a home run here. But it's also showing who he's inspiring. He's like, people all around the league now are doing things they never thought they could do. Baseball is changing. Like this guy, not in a million years, would round first. And he didn't even need to, but he was so focused on rounding first, he didn't even look at where the ball was going. He was so like... And then he has the line like, "How can you not be romantic about baseball?" I mean, it really brings
Tear to my eye. man.
the movie together in a really powerful
probably
way.
top 3 line in the whole movie.
Tear to my eye, dude. The one statement I will make is the other really powerful part about it is you root for him so hard because his convictions are justified because he was that guy. He was the can't miss prospect. So he knows that he did miss.
Right.
So he also vis-a-vis knows that there is hidden gems somewhere around here. Like the can't miss prospect that costs a lot of money can miss. But if we find these guys, these hidden gems, they can also do the reverse.
Ben Simmons.
Oh, yeah. How often? I mean, we hear it all the time, though. Can't miss prospects. Jamarcus Russell.
Markel Fultz.
These dudes miss. They miss like
Jahlil Okafor.
quite often. You've experienced.
I'm naming every bad Sixers player that they've drafted in the last 10 years.
You've experienced
Gotcha.
quite a lot of that.
Sorry. So I've stopped following basketball long ago. Ever since the Bobcats had the worst season in NBA history.
The Bobcats was last year.
You mean the Raymond Felton led Bobcats?
Well, it's not any better down there at the Spectrum Center or at the.
And then I found out like years later that Michael Jordan owns. He still owns the.
He sold it this year, actually.
He sold it this year, and I was like, how does one of the greatest
$7.
basketball players of all time own one of the worst possible?
It is
like
baffling, isn't it?
He made $13.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
He had to
do
pay
better.
money to
He got
do
an
that to someone
Amazon
else.
gift card.
he had to pay $3.5 million to get rid of it.
Sorry, didn't mean to change the topic.
So, no, that's good.
good.
So
We do that often
So
here.
let's talk specifically. We talked a little bit about the story. Let's talk about the characters. So obviously, there's several characters in this movie. It centers around
were
Billy Bean.
At least two characters.
So talk about like what were some of the impactful characters.
Do you want to talk
and
about
what you
general
like
impressions
about-
of the movie before we go into specifics?
I mean,
I'm curious to hear what this guy has to
that's
say
okay.
about it.
I didn't get your opinion. Let's hear what Nathaniel has to say.
He's been avoiding me. Well, okay. No, I heard you said one of your favorite movies of all time. Obviously, Gavin likes it. I didn't hear. You just said. I just heard like good movie.
I mean, it's a great movie, and I mean, I'll give more of my thoughts as we dive into like the different aspects, the characters, the story, the score. But like, yes, I really do. I love this movie.
okay.
Are we
Now,
he's
we're about to
gearing
find
up.
out why I'm in the Liam seat. I thought it was no. Okay, it's a good movie.
Hot takes.
except for it's
Greg has been
for
having way
Nathaniel
too much
now.
fun in the off season.
Yeah, he's got a lot of time.
Jeez. No, I think it was a good movie. I think it was well acted. I thought it was kind of boring.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest. So here's my thing. They made a whole big deal on how the statistics are changing the way everything's happening, but I really feel like they didn't show us enough of that. They showed us a little bit. They show like, oh, Jonah Hill's like putting the pitches in the thing and he's keeping track of all the data. They showed us montages of that. And then they showed us like points where he's sitting and talking to, like I mentioned earlier, he's talking to the players and telling them how their statistics are playing out. But I really feel we didn't I feel like they should have done more with Jonah Hill's character. He just kind of he shows up, he gives him the stats, and then it really is just the all Brad Pitt show. And everyone's like, "Oh, Brad Pitt, you're so great, you're so great." But I was like, "No," but it was, and I can't remember Jonah Hill's character's name.
Peter Brand.
Peter Brand. It was Peter who was doing all the hard the work. Like, yes, it took the mind and work of Billy Bean to put that into practice, but really he was nowhere without Peter. And so, like at the end, the Red Sox, and of course they mentioned that it's all based on this book by Bill James, and it's like Peter Brand found this and was like, oh, this is really cool. I need to start using this. And at the end, when he's talking with the Red Sox, okay, so clarify something for me. So he's divorced his wife, and his wife is married to the Red Sox owner?
No. Different guy.
Different guy. Okay. I'm going to be honest. I had a lot of trouble.
That would be wild.
Other than
That
Brad
guy
Pitt
is
and
such a
Jonah
meme.
Hill, I had extreme trouble, and Chris Pratt, I had extreme trouble telling the characters apart. So, like, there's the one guy who's wearing the leg braces who gets traded. I have no idea who that character was.
I don't even think you need to.
Yeah, you
I
don't
have
need
no
that.
idea who that
wasn't
person
in it.
was.
You
But
don't
it
even
was
know
like
who
this
he
big
was.
poignant moment. He was like, "Sorry, I'm sending you down
think it was-
to the outside of the shed to get shot." And I was like, "I
It
don't
was-
know who that is."
That scene, I think, was
We're gonna
more
kill
just
you.
showing the realities of what he
Sure,
was
I
talking
get that.
about.
I get
Yeah.
that. But what was I talking about? Right, Jonah Hill's character.
Yeah.
I really feel like he was just kind of, you can do it, buddy. But it's like he was the one who was kind of behind all of this, because the Red Sox end up hiring Bill James, the guy who wrote the original paper that set it all off. But really, it's like the big spotlight's on Billy Bean, who was an integral part of it. But I really feel like they didn't give Peter Brand any kind of spotlight, and it's like, but he was kind of the only reason that this was even possible.
Well, yeah, but Billy's the one. I get that, but Billy's the one that has to make those moves happen. Peter can identify everything. he wants.
But my point is they're a team. But it felt like it was like at the end they were like, and
You got
so
all the
Billy
spotlight.
Bean saved everyone. I'm like, no, they did it together. It was a movie about the power of friendship. I really feel like I needed to see, and I kept expecting to see it. Some moments of tension between them, because I really feel like they didn't flesh out the relationship between them very well. So it was like he picked him up, he pulled him in, and then from that point on, every single one of their interactions is, all right, here's what we're going to do, let's do it. Here's what we're going to do, let's do it. And so 'cause I felt like at the beginning when they walk into that the boardroom with all the scouts, and he's like, "And we're getting this guy because, like,
Yeah.
snaps
Gets on
points,
base.
That's what you talk." So I thought that was a good interaction. Like, oh, he's the new guy. We're getting him acclimated. But then I feel like a couple of people mentioned like, who is this guy? This guy's never going to work out. But I feel like there was clearly turmoil around that. They should have shown us like people being angry at him or angry with Billy about hiring him or some tension between him and. I feel like there was an element of that was just
Well, I mean,
would have made that relationship more tangible to me.
I mean,
I feel like that was just missing. There you go. I'm on characters now. I feel like Jonah
yes.
Hill's character was just kind of there for a lot of the movie.
well, I think that Billy Bean sets it up like when he has that conversation when he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Hey, you are a 20-whatever-year-old kid with a degree from Yale, at your first job, and for the A's, you're gonna be fine. Like, what are you scared of?
Yeah.
I am, the whatever the owner, whatever of
General manager.
general manager of the A's, like the worst team in baseball, essentially the lowest payroll. He's probably the lowest paid GM at the time. And he's like, I'm the one that's risking everything, and he's the one that has to do that. So he's the one that has to be in the meetings. He's the one that has to go and take all the blows for it. And Peter Brand is kind of just sitting in the shadows. Like, if this thing fails, it's not on him. Mm-hmm. But also, if it succeeds, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, he's not going to be the one to get the main focus. But he's also just, I mean, the story is just developing around Billy.
I understand that it's primarily a story about Billy Bean and
Right.
his journey, but I feel like Jonah Hill's character is such an integral part of it, and he really, in certain parts of the movie, he really feels like just a background character.
Well, he's certainly like.
That's a supporting actor.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
like
but-
he certainly
but,
is a supporting
like,
actor,
He
but he has some
just kind of
development.
doesn't do like he introduces the stats, but then for a lot of the movie, he's just not really doing anything. There are moments when he's doing things, but I really feel like I either needed some tension between them to show why they weren't together all the time, or for like more of the buddy cop stuff, like the phone call scene where they're doing the phone calls. I thought that was like a good scene between them going back and forth. When he's deciding to cut all those people.
Well, there is, I don't know if this counts as tension, but like there is like moments where Jonah Hill doesn't know why Brad Pitt isn't going to the games, isn't going on the airplane.
But they never resolve that. Not really. They don't really resolve that.
That's not something that Peter Brand's character would ever do, though. Like, just like his personality. He's
Yeah.
not going to confront Billy.
I don't think Peter Brand needed the fame. Peter Brand, by the way, not a real person.
Well,
Nice.
He's based on a real person.
He's a real
He's based on
person.
another person, but
He
it's not
used-
Peter Brand.
They couldn't use his name.
used a different
Who's he
name.
based on?
I don't know. Pete De Bodesta. That was one of my half-assed research.
Why would they not just call him?
I don't know.
They didn't
I don't
change
know.
that makes no sense
They
to me.
didn't get the
It's based on a
rights.
real person, but we don't want to name after this guy.
Half-ass research.
Well done, man.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Paul De Podesta.
Greg's having way too much fun.
Yeah,
here.
loves it. He's waiting for
That's
that.
too much of a mouthful.
We keep setting him up.
That's too much of a mouthful.
We got a
Yeah.
question for our guest. Question
jeez.
coming from chat. Question for the guest.
From Chad.
What
What does Chad have? What does Chad have to say? You can say their names. It's okay.
Nathaniel, shut up.
It's public information.
I'm gonna mute your mic.
I'll be louder. I'll use
Question for
someone
the
else's
guest: Would the movie be better if Jonah was casted as a baseball instead?
Who was that? Do we know who that was?
Blicky.
That's,
Nice.
that's hilarious.
Blicky Chung.
Yeah.
That's
Blicky
hilarious.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Like just a small baseball on
Clearly
Billy
Na-
Bean's
clearly
shoulder.
It's
Like
like
he
he doesn't
said.
exist.
Thinks that would be the case.
He doesn't exist, but he like is a
Just like his-
figment
his-
of Billy
his
Bean's.
fairy.
At the end of the movie, it's like Fight Club, where he's like, I was never really here.
He looks in the mirror and he is Peter Brand.
So I did circling back to characters. So obviously you have functionally the character with the biggest arc, and the character you're following is Billy Bean. And I think they do a really good job. We can talk about that in a second. Jonah Hill's character for sure has a bit of a character arc, but his is more of just I'm a young kid and I'm learning the ropes. Like he has to learn, like the scene where he's like, "Hey, you need to know how to fire people." And he's like, "No, I don't.
Well-
this is stupid."
well,
all this stuff, and he teaches him, and he kind of starts to understand the inner workings. And like, at least for me, what I took from that and understanding what they were doing with his character development was that as I'm watching, I'm starting to feel like him. Like I'm starting to feel like, okay, I'm stepping into this world. I would also not know what to do. I would also be scared to cut people, and I'm learning a little bit too. So I feel like he was kind of the eyes and ears inside of the baseball world for people that didn't understand baseball.
He was like the rocket fuel. Like Billy Bean thought this way vaguely,
But
then once he met Peter Brand, then it was like then Billy Bean was all in.
I feel like here's the thing. It feels like Peter Brand's character arc is supposed to be he's doing this work and it's working, but no one's paying attention to him because they don't actually believe in what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets scouted by Billy Bean, who believes in what he's doing, and then I feel like there should have been a moment where Billy was like, "Okay, maybe you're wrong about this," but Billy agreed with 100% of what he was doing 100% of the time. So it feels like his character arc finished after their first meeting.
Well, I think to touch on the point I made earlier, like I think the reason Billy is so all in is because he himself saw the other side of the coin
when he has the
as a
conversation
player.
with the scout guy,
Yeah.
who's like, "F you," like, "Okay, now you're fired."
Yeah. I'm not gonna fire you, Grady.
I do.
Now you're fired.
I do have
Now you're
one
fired.
complaint about the movie. So
All right.
obviously it's very dramatized and
Sure.
it's an underdog story, right? They want to portray it that these guys suck, right?
Uh-huh.
They did overlook the fact that they also had Barry Zito
Good. Yeah.
as a
Half-ass
starting
research, good.
pitcher. Barry Zito was an all-star pitcher, also was very, very good down his career. And Miguel Tejada,
Who is a
amazing shortstop.
borderline Hall of Famer.
Right.
Wow.
Also on the team, both were all-stars. So, yes, they had a Island Misfit Toys, but they also had 2 all-stars that were...
That's a good. That's one of the things I know. They had
It was very weird. That like,
Yeah.
how,
It
do you
definitely-
how do you overlook someone like Barry Zito?
Yeah, it definitely
Eric
felt like a
Chavez, Mark Mulder.
Right,
They
right.
had good players.
it definitely felt like a like the whole spring training arc definitely felt like an Angels in the Outfield, but serious.
yeah.
Where it's like, here are all these bumbling buffoons, and one of them happens to be Chris Pratt, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
whip him into shape.
Yeah.
And here's one thing. So Brad Pitt, I thought, did a good job acting,
Yeah, excellent.
You want to say?
which he usually does.
Yeah.
I didn't buy like any of his moments of fury. I didn't buy.
No?
I didn't feel it on his face.
like
as much.
Fury. Like do you have
Like
an
he
example?
smashes his radio in the beginning, and he's like throwing the baseball and smashing the
Oh,
radio
that's
and
one of
dumping
the
the cooler,
best
which I thought they were
scenes.
great. But I don't know. I just didn't buy the emotion from him. He did the like, oh, I'm tired and I'm stressed out. That I came across really well. Is this a Brad Pitt thing that he's
he
just
eats.
always
He's
eating
always
in every
eating.
scene?
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
it
like
is a Brad Pitt thing, yeah.
is that like in his writer that he just eats in every scene?
So
that
this is
a Brad Pitt thing?
so he actually like he does this on his own kind of, but for actors, so there is a
Quirk.
I forget the name of it, but there's a bucket. This is a real thing. It sits next to actors, especially
A spit bucket.
Yes, it's a spit bucket, and this is like a real. It's still there in modern Hollywood.
Yeah,
It'll just be sitting
because if
next
you have
to
to do multiple takes where you have to eat a whole burger,
yeah,
you can't
it's
do
like,
that.
So literally, these actors are like they'll take a bite of the burger, camera will cut, they'll spit that half like into a bucket next to them. They'll keep talking, and they're like, okay, do the scene over. Like on the new burger, they'll do the same thing. So they'll have a bucket that's just full of like chewed up food, and it's really gross. And you actually see him spit into the bucket, and they keep it in the movie. This scene
Was
where
it
he's-
during the trade scene?
During the
Yeah,
trade
yeah, yeah,
scene,
yeah, yeah.
He gets all the popcorn and he just spits it to the side.
That's so funny. He so aggressively
they,
spits
they
it.
They just thought like this
I
is
thought
something
everyone
that,
was doing chew the whole
this
time.
is just something that he
I
could
think
do.
baseball, everybody does do chew.
And-
so.
I think
so
most
they
people
kept it in
I think we
there.
made him switch to sunflower seeds.
But it's literally just the
most
actor
part.
spitting
That's what
into
they
his
want you
spit
to think.
bucket.
Yeah, I thought it was very aggressive of him in the beginning scenes when he's in Cleveland and he goes into that scene with all the other guys from the Indians there.
Yeah.
And he just goes in, just full handful, just like grabs it,
Yeah.
just starts eating there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
it's not really a good way to like.
But he did
introduce
that in
yourself.
Ocean's 11 too. Is that just a quirk of Brad Pitt? Like, is always eating in all of his scenes.
It might help him focus in some weird way.
So Chris Pratt, who's also in this movie,
Chubby
apparently-
Pratt.
Yeah, Chubby Pratt.
Was he that chubby?
No, not really. But he was.
he
I
wasn't
mean, he
chubby,
wasn't.
but
He
he
wasn't
was
a
just like-
Why
Star
people
Lord.
say that?
He wasn't
I mean,
Star Lord.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
it's because he's so
it's
ripped
because when
now, probably,
when he became
by
Star Lord,
comparison.
he was like shredded beyond
Yeah.
belief.
He looked worse.
He was like normal.
He looked worse in Parks and Rec than he does in this movie.
I agree.
Yeah,
He's
you know,
like the
Parks and
middle.
Rec,
like a little-
Parks and Rec.
you know what I
He's,
mean?
he's
He's
just
the middle
He's not
in
like
between.
hefty, chunky, but he's he's a little doughy.
But he was also portrayed as that.
Yes.
too.
He
But what was funny was it's funny because during the filming of Parks and Rec, he got the Star Lord role, and so he got shredded for that. Oh yeah. And so like on Parks and Rec, they're like, "You look great." It's like, "Yeah, I just stopped drinking 30 beers a day."
Well, for this movie, so he auditioned and they told him, they're like, yeah, you're too fat, straight up. Yeah, this is like there's like a real conversation, everything where they're like, hey, you're too fat, and so he just started working out and kept checking if they had announced the casting yet. Kept checking, and then like was in shape enough by the time that they finished casting that they were like, okay, cool, like you're in
Wow.
shape now. So he like slid into that role, which
Imagine them doing that today.
which
Fatphobic.
I would say like if I was to try to nitpick, maybe there's a reason why Scott Hatterberg was important to this whole thing, but I don't really know. Like Billy Bean clearly
I
carried
think
enough. Billy
he
Bean
was
clearly carried enough, like with his character, and like there's tons of lines to follow in this movie, right? Like they throw a whole bunch of storylines out there. We get it that these are misfit players that nobody else wants. We understand that. They've established that. You could even mention like, hey, we have Scott Hatterberg. His hand is all messed up and he's gonna play first base, and then like he hits a home run. That's fine, but to do all of like the added scenes of him and to make him, it was almost like it seemed like there must have been a million scenes that they cut out, which isn't the case, but like it seems like there must have been, because I see the few scenes with Chris Pratt where they try to give him some agency, and I'm like, why? I'm kind of confused.
My read on that was that he's the reflection of
Misfits.
Billy
Money.
Bean.
I thought he was crucial.
He's the
Yeah, I
part of
thought
Billy
he
Bean.
was- I
Billy
thought it
Bean's
was
like
very important.
Billy Bean's
Really?
like, oh, you hit that. It happened a couple times. We had the flashback. The guys where they say you get that thing where you're out.
Yeah.
And it might happen when you're 18. It might happen when you're 40. But everybody gets it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Chris Pratt's character had gotten it because he threw the ball wonky or whatever. Right? Is that the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
character.
No,
I mixed up some of the
No,
characters.
Chris Pratt was not the guy who
Oh
threw
no,
the pitch
that was
weird.
that was the
Yeah.
actor.
But he
That was
was
Chad
not a first
Bradford.
baseman.
Chad
He was what was his
He's a
position?
catcher. He was a catcher.
He was no,
He was a catcher, not Bradford.
Chris Pratt.
Hatterberg was a catcher,
Yes.
at least in the
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
And
And he played
couldn't
first base
throw
for the
anymore.
Oakland A's because he had
Yeah,
nerve.
and one
Yeah.
of the reasons that they kept sticking on his character was because that was the primary position that Artie kept fighting him on.
Yeah.
Said he can't play first base. I'm going to put someone who can play first base.
Yeah.
And his whole point was, it doesn't matter whether he can play first base. We need him there for his batting percentage.
Yeah.
Right,
Because
for getting on base.
our whole plan is we have the aggregate Giambi. We need him. So I don't care if he doesn't
gets
play
on
first base.
base.
And also with the pitcher is like, I don't put him
Kevin
up against
Youkilis.
righties, and he's like, I don't. Kevin Youkilis. That was that he and the pitcher guy were like the pivotal points that Artie kept fighting with, and that's
Yeah.
why he's like, all right, they're gone. So
I think
great.
he was like the representation. Sorry, to cut you off, Kev. I think he was like the representation of. Oh, we'll get back there. We'll get back to that. Anyway, enough of that bullshit. I think he was the representation of the whole Moneyball experiment.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, he was the face of this paying off.
yeah,
the climax of the movie
he was the toy
his home
soldier
run.
of the misfit toys.
He had irreversible nerve damage in his elbow. That's you don't sign anybody who has that, no matter
Yeah.
what sport they're playing.
He was the guy that everybody overlooked, and Billy Bean didn't.
Yeah.
And it resulted in the 20-game win streak, and Hatterberg hitting the home run was the climax of the movie, in my
it could
opinion.
have been any of those guys,
Right.
But
I
they
guess that's
focused
my
on
point.
Hatterberg because he was that example of here's a person who, because of the way scouts look at things, will never get a shot.
Yeah.
And then they look at their numbers and they say we can make him work, and then they prove that kind of prove that their method was sound.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, and I think that there's also an element of, and we can get into this next, but there is an element of what actually happened, and probably the only thing that they had to stick to is they're like, well, we can't lie about like the result, like the record, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The record is kind of like it's there.
Yeah.
And Scott Hatterberg really was the one who hit that home run, which I guess they could have theoretically changed that, but. Thinking about it now, I guess if you were to pick a player, why not pick that guy who hits the big home run to win the game and who has an interesting story? I guess I just thought it was most of the scenes that tried to. I mean, he doesn't have any character development. He just exists as a plot device.
I
but-
will say, so he has that. Billy has that whole conversation with Justice in the batting cage, and gives him the whole spiel like, yeah, you think you're so valuable because you're being paid $70.
Just
No, you're
buy
actually
in.
being paid that much because you're as unvaluable as possible. And he's like, you need to be a leader. You need to step up, like buy in, be a leader. And so then they go to the scene where he's like, hey, Scott, what are you afraid of? The ball. No, seriously, what are you afraid of? The ball. Okay, good luck with that. And that I'm like, wait, that's him being a leader? I don't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, that's
so
a good point.
confused.
That was a funny scene, but it's a valid
It was funny,
point.
but I was like, is this him being a leader? He's doing a terrible job.
It's like, no, seriously, the ball coming anywhere in my direction.
My favorite Scott Hatterberg scene is when they go to the house and he calls him, and he's like, "Hey, we're on your front porch. Let me in." And they go and sit down, and
Amazing
he when they say we don't want you at catcher, we want you at first base, and he's just like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
Whoa, what do you mean you want me at first base? And then and then the best line is when he says, "Well, what about the fans?" And the assistant coach, the scout, goes, "Yeah, maybe I could teach one of them to play too."
yeah.
Brad Pitt's like, isn't it hard to play first base? Brad Pitt's like, it's incredibly easy. Tell him. It's incredibly hard.
Incredibly hard.
Very hard.
I'm pretty sure. You remember Ron Washington?
Yeah.
I think that's who the assistant coach is.
Really?
I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. Ron Washington is like a very relevant head coach in the MLB. Has been like pretty historic.
Sounds like some
So he's a
half-ass
has-been?
research.
And I think the assistant coach in that movie is Ron Washington. I'm pretty sure. I'm looking it up.
It's funny that you think I knew who Ron
Half-ass
Washington is.
research.
Do you?
No, I don't know who Ron Washington
Really?
is. No.
Oh, maybe that's just
Generic person's name right there.
The scorned
yeah.
redhead son of George Washington,
There you go,
Ron
dude.
Washington.
You don't know ball, man.
Chat says chat says Gavin is canceled.
Yeah, well.
Bummer.
Wait for what?
They just said he's canceled.
That's right, 'cause Ron
Was
Washington
that
is
Blicky?
black.
Was that
That is
Blicky
Brian
again?
Long says that.
Too long.
What's up, Brian?
Too long. Broadway.
But I mean,
Can I?
yeah,
No, I have a
finish your
nitpick.
thought. Yeah,
I have my nitpick.
Okay.
And I want to see what your guys' thoughts are on it. The only part of the movie, the only like aspect of the movie that didn't really hit me a whole lot. It still did, but like I didn't see the full arc of it. Was the daughter?
Really?
I feel like it wasn't in
So
the
it's-
movie enough
that
to like
ending scene
really.
got me.
The ending scene
Yeah.
is great, but like I feel like it wasn't in the movie a
I was like,
ton.
oh, she made a sweet song, and it's like, you're a loser, Dad. I'm like, wait, what? You
I
kept
thought that
saying
was
like,
funny,
And he
too.
is a loser.
Hello?
You don't see that coming. Yeah.
No, I think the point of that is he feels like a total and utter failure, and like his daughter. Again, they didn't really like explicitly say why he doesn't go to games. He feels like he's a jinx. I feel like they needed to kind of say that a little bit more. But she's like his point of encouragement, saying, "Hey, Dad, we're proud of." Like that was the big moment, was when they called him and say, "Go back to the game. We're proud of what you've
Yeah.
done. You need to be there for the streak."
Yeah.
So he felt like a failure. He felt like he failed his family.
I think she also added an element to the end when. As a movie watcher, you might not build up the allegiance to the A's by the end of the movie. You might be like, okay, this is like if anything, this is kind of a frustrating organization to be in, and you're really happy for Billy that he gets his opportunity. And so for him to say, well, I'm going to stay here because I want to beat the big guys, you can kind of get behind, and I think I do, but I don't know if everybody does. And so adding the element of the daughter saying, hey, are you going to lose your job? Are you going to have to move? And him saying, no, I'm staying right here with you. Like, that's what's most important to me. And at the end, him saying, no, I'm staying, and her being excited about that. I think that probably gets some people that didn't necessarily buy in with the whole, I understand why you're giving up the money, which you didn't understand anyways, because you just wanted him to sell out. And to,
Right.
Even though the whole movie is pointing, like,
But-
that's kind of like the whole entire movie is pointing to that moment, to him making that decision. And I think it does a good job, because despite all of the movie pointing you and saying, don't do things because of money, stay here because you want to be a father to your daughter, stay here because you want to keep doing this whole thing that you're doing and beat the big guys, and then the offer gets made, and even as a viewer, you're like, dang, that's pretty crazy though. Maybe you should
Yeah.
There's
just
a lot
take
of
it.
dough.
And then that's what makes it a good movie, is because
Yeah.
you can watch that and be like, oh, I kind of wanted to betray all the things I've been thinking this whole movie to take
Right.
that money, and then you're proud of him for making that decision that you feel like you could.
But and also, say in real life he did take that offer, and say he won the World Series with the Red Sox 3 years later. That'd be even a cooler movie, in my opinion.
Boy,
Like
what
you took probably top 3 most historic baseball teams and won it.
and broke the
Like,
curse.
Yeah, winning in Oakland would be cool, but it's Oakland.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That team doesn't even exist
Oakland
anymore.
sucks.
Would have been a wild
Wait, they
story.
moved, right?
They moved to
They
Vegas.
moved to Vegas.
Yeah, because
Bunch of
Oakland
losers.
sucks.
Yeah, Oakland blows. They don't
Would've-
have any sports teams anymore.
That's really sad.
They're all gone.
Who do they have besides the A's?
No, they don't have anything anymore.
Who did they have?
The Raiders and
Oh,
the,
that's
and the
right.
Warriors were in Oakland too.
Where
Now
did the Raiders move to?
Vegas.
Vegas.
And then
I mean, to be fair to the
Warriors,
teams, there's a lot of money in
the
Vegas.
Warriors moved across the bay to San Francisco.
Everyone's leaving. It would have been a
'Cause
wild
Oakland
story, but like
sucks.
butterfly effect, you could probably say they don't win.
But couldn't you also say, where's the Theo Epstein movie? Because Theo Epstein did basically the thing with the Red Sox based on Moneyball, and
Yeah.
then he went to the Cubs, and granted he had a bunch of money there, but
That Cubs
would
World
love to see
Series
that
win.
movie.
I don't care about baseball. That was exciting.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it is.
I was
it's exciting.
I
The
was like
story
2 a.m.
behind
in
it is
Atlanta.
so exciting.
I was living in Atlanta at the time. My dad was there for a trade show, and so I went to meet him at the hotel he was staying in. We were watching the game. It was the 11th inning, and I was like, I have to go because it was like 1 a.m. On the metro back, I was sitting across from a person who grew up in Chicago and was a lifelong Cubs fan. We were both watching the game, and he was like weeping at the end. I was like, that was a really cool moment.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
So
How can you not get romantic
so-
about baseball?
One of the most unintentionally, I noticed this during the movie. So they had Mr. Half-Ass Research. Did this actually happen? They had an 11-0 lead and they almost blew it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How wild is that?
That's insane to me. But so during that portion, they're showing the game, and I was rolling. It was unintentionally hilarious. They're doing poorly. The game gets tied up, and they're moving into the dugout. And Justice like throws his helmet against the wall and that. Okay. Like just this dramatic like silence and just anger. And right before that happens, they're walking to the dugout and someone just like gives Justice a butt pat. And right then it goes silent. So it's like he hit the mute button. It's like I was dying laughing. It was the most comedically timed butt pat of all time.
Aside from that moment in sound editing, though, I actually think that the sound editing in this movie
it was very good.
Is top. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, the opening scene, for whatever reason, and again, maybe it's just the child in me that like, so it draws in, it gives you all the
you're on the right track.
It gives you all the backstory. You know, it's like this is what's happening. These are the salaries, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the movie, and it's just the empty stadium. And it zooms in a little bit more, and now you're kind of in one of the hallways. It zooms in a little more, and you can hear a security guard watching the game. It zooms past him, and now the sound is further away.
Wow, that is amazing.
And then it punches into the actual stadium, and there's one person in this empty stadium, and you get that feel. Like you get to feel like you get to walk into this stadium.
The little radio.
Yeah, and he's sitting there, and he's just got the radio pressed up against like the side of his face. He's sitting there, and he's turning it on, and he's turning it off. And he's turning on, and and you just get to hear the radio come in and come out. And I don't know what it is. And again, there are certain elements in this movie that fall into that category for me, where I'm not sure why I love it so much. Like
that is why.
Yeah.
You know what it was missing? 24 FPS slow mo. That would have put it over the edge.
It had no bad slow mo.
No, it was a well shot movie. And the sound design was particularly good. Yeah, I did notice that as well.
But I think that they added a lot of these elements of like the natural sound coming from a radio, coming from a television, coming from a broadcast, and they put those in constantly, like all over the place.
They did.
I mean, it was just between every scene that they could, it would just be, what is the media talking about? And I think that aided so much because it would have just taken a lot of hours of storytelling to try to add in what everybody was thinking and feeling about this team.
Yeah, because like in a more poorly made movie, it'd be Billy Bean sitting in his office. Someone comes in, throws the newspaper. Have you seen this? And then just exposit, like read the article to him.
You're right.
So I thought they did a good job weaving in like the commentary from the announcers and the fans and the interviews and things like that to get you a feel of here's how everyone else is feeling about this thing he's doing.
They did a phenomenal job of mixing in Billy Beans as a kid, and Billy Bean as Brad Pitt.
Very sporadically too.
Yeah,
like,
but
it wasn't just like
made
it's in
sense.
the
I
style.
missed the part. So he did baseball, and like when did he burn out? I missed that
He had
part.
like 6 years in the
Yeah,
league.
he had some years. You saw him on multiple teams, I think.
but I don't remember seeing the part where it's like you're out.
The main
Nah, I think it's just a
idea,
slow
the main
burn.
idea
I think
that his backstory is supposed to be telling is that
Correct.
he was a sure thing.
Yeah.
For whatever you can take a sure thing in baseball
Five
to be,
tool.
he was it. It was
Five-tool.
showing how
so he was like supposed to be a superstar, and he
Over
was
the
just
top.
like a mid baseball player,
was
and then
Not even mid. Bad.
he was just
a
kind of a
bad
bad
Just like
baseball
flanked
player.
out.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what the okay,
And he
got it.
definitely wasn't worth what they gave him. And that's kind of the model for the rest of the movie, where it's like, hey, let's not go out and get Billy Beans. And for him, it's like a redemption of,
Right, I got
it's a
that
redemption
part.
of who he is.
I got
to be,
that
to
part.
be able
Just
to
like
say,
some of the later flashbacks lost me a little
I'm
bit.
gonna use the knowledge that I have now of being like, okay, that wasn't for nothing. The fact that I was drafted first overall and was a complete bust, I can actually use that and not do it the ways that these guys are all doing it when they screwed up and drafted me. And that's why he asked Peter, where he's like, where would you have taken me? It's the first question he asked him. He calls him, he's drunk late at night. He's like, when would you have drafted me? He's like, oh yeah, you were a great player. And he's like, shut up. He's like, when would you have drafted me? He's like,
Ninth round.
ninth
No
round,
signing bonus.
no signing bonus. And then he's like, I'm assuming
yeah.
you would have gone to college.
Yeah.
And he's like, haha, pack your bags. Pete."
He's like,
Which is-
Yeah. Well, speaking of sound editing, this movie was nominated for an Oscar for sound editing. too.
Yeah, that makes
wow.
sense to me.
Does
Good
not
half-ass
surprise-
research.
not-
Yeah,
It was actually
not
nominated for
surprise
6.
me.
half-ass research.
It was actually nominated for
Gavin
6 Oscars.
Is that right?
Yeah. Nominated for Best Picture.
Best Actor.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Best Actor. Jonah Hill, Best Supporting Actor. Best Achievement in Film Editing. And then Best Writing, Adapted Screenplay.
Adapted screenplay. Yeah.
Wow. It almost should have. Did it win that? Did it win?
What was it?
win anything.
What was it up
No.
against for
Adapted
adapted screenplay? What was it? What was the competition for that?
That was 2003.
Couldn't
Yeah.
tell you.
Because think about how impressive it is
Back when movies were good.
to take a movie. Because
Right.
I've read the book, and I geek out about it. But like
the book's not really.
the book is just about
it's not a
analytics
story
and
at
sports.
all.
It's not a story.
Nerd.
It's legitimately nerd alert. It's legitimately not a for the big screen book in any way.
Well, I remember my parents bought me that Bill James book growing up
Yeah.
because I love this movie so much growing up. This is just like it's just a book of numbers.
Yeah, it's a
literally
math thesis. It's not meant to be read
I'm not
unless
reading
you're
that.
Liam.
I got like
Yeah.
4 pages in. I said, "Fuck this."
Yeah, the Moneyball book is not like a traditional arc of a story.
not a
literally
novel.
just like
Right.
no.
Well,
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
So this is how accurate does a sports movie, or really, I mean, we could just go biopic, honestly, in general. Although, I mean, some biopics it's more critical. But how accurate does a sports movie have to be for you to like? Like, does it add anything?
Well, I
to
think
be
you
more
should have all the
accurate?
names of
care
people
less.
correct.
Does it matter?
So we should. I feel like we should figure out. Maybe Chad can help us out. Why did they change that one character's name, that one integral character's name, but they didn't change any of the other names? So why does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
So I think you hit the major story beats, and then you say, okay, things played out this way. You start at A, you end at B, and in the middle, the way you get from A to B. Let me talk as a chemist here. This is what we call.
Wait, hold on.
Greg, this is what we call.
Science time. Nathaniel Levinson.
Just had everything.
Jeez.
Dude's ready to roll.
Wow.
All right, let's
so we have what are called state functions. Okay, a state function is where the only thing that matters is where you start and where you end. How you get there doesn't matter. So like your location is a state function. If I start here in Charlotte and I want to go to Atlanta, typically you just get on 85, drive straight down there. If I was an insane person with a lot of money, I could get in a Zeppelin and go all the way around the earth until I got to Atlanta. But my initial and ending positions would be the same regardless. That's a state function. So I think in some ways, for biopics, you have these major story for like things that are based on true events. You have these major story beats, and you have the characters' names and what they did, their actions, and you can kind of play around with the middle stuff that's less important. The stuff that how did he, maybe he had a conversation, maybe he didn't. And so you can use that to, say, okay, well, when we're going from A to B, we need to tell the audience this information or they're not going to understand how we got from A to B.
Yeah.
So these two characters are going to have a conversation or an interaction, something that didn't happen, but it's going to help clarify things to the audience or maybe add some drama or whatever it happens to be. But it doesn't change the overall story.
Yeah.
I think that's where you should land on. What it isn't is saying, oh yeah, Cleopatra, that Greek Macedonian woman, yeah, no, she was black because my grandma said so, and then get sued by the entire country of Egypt. Yeah, that you don't do that.
I will say, as like a specific.
Did you hear about this?
I know it's true, but nobody wants to touch
You
it.
hear about this?
I
You
don't-
hear about this?
Yeah. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about this?
No,
Did you hear this?
Netflix got sued by the entire country of Egypt
Yeah,
because they came out with a
we
documentary
got the world
about
behind us. We're
Black
fine.
Cleopatra.
We can bash that one.
What was it? Jay Leno? Have you heard this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Is that
Jay
Leno?
Leno.
Is that
Have you
Leno?
heard this?
That was Leno.
Oh, that is
Question,
Leno.
question for Gavin here from the chat. Who
God.
deserves more award nominations, Moneyball or The Last of Us Season 1?
What?
Fits.
Last of Us season 1 episode with Ron Swanson.
I was trying to say
Top episode.
that episode. Oh yeah.
We've discovered
didn't
who-
make me turn off the TV at all. I'll tell
Hey,
you
Greg, let me ask you a question. Was that Blicky?
Yeah, that was Blicky.
what. Yeah, well,
We've discovered who that is.
We know where those are coming from. Yeah,
Are you excited for season 2?
I'm very excited. I love the
Oh
show.
man, we'll see how it goes.
I thought it was great. I think it's got a lot of.
Have you played The Last of Us 2?
Have you played the
Have
game?
you
Have you
played
played
games?
The Last of Us 2?
Nah,
This is
Okay,
listen.
so
Saying it's great. This is not the ballpark
you
to
can't-
bring that
you
up.
it's not the right group for
Yeah,
that.
oh, no.
So I hated the show.
I-
what a
I'm
waste
not-
of time.
Yeah,
I
get
am
it.
not invested in it at all.
What's
Greg
the
plays
lead-
the games like once a year.
What's the lead guy's name?
Joel?
What's the no? It's the actor.
Oh,
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
What's the hype with him?
I don't get it either.
I'm 100%
And why do people
with
think he's
you.
attractive?
I don't get that either.
He's old.
I'm not.
Everyone calls him daddy. I don't get it.
Daddy.
Girls are into that.
Gavin,
these
I am with you on this. I don't get the hype around
I don't
him
get it.
on
Like he's not
either.
even like overly fit. Like he's got like no like real great jawline.
I will say
just don't
he was
get
the
it.
only good part about Wonder Woman 1984, which was like a garbage fire movie. But
All
his
those
character
movies suck.
was pretty funny.
Really?
The first Wonder Woman was not.
I think he's
bad.
just a charm. I think he's charming. Like I think he's charming. I do think he's funny. I don't think he's attractive. Though.
I don't get that.
I think he
either.
was good in Narcos. That's about it.
Me too. I think he's great in Narcos.
But other than that,
I
I'm
don't
not
get the hype
impressed with
behind
his-
him. Period. Even just as an actor, I think he has very
He's mid.
He's very
Say
muted
it.
performances
Say
where
it.
he's just kind of like, hey, go over there.
Yeah, I think he's.
And like that's all he does.
I
in
think
everything.
he's an actor that got
And-
blown up beyond his actual acting skill. I don't quite understand
why?
either. I don't know.
Was
I
it
don't know.
the show?
And
I have no
It's
idea what
definitely
blew him
not.
up.
It's. I mean, it's not The Last of Us. You can't. So yeah, we'll get off The Last of Us quick because I can get very passionate about this.
Thanks, Blicky.
I play all these games once a year. Both the games, all the games.
The good one and the bad one.
The second one is just every time I play it, I get angry. And the show was just an atrocity.
So what
But
if
anyways,
the show is actually? What if the second season's actually
No, 'cause
like
the guy-
equivalent to
well-
the video game? Would that make you feel better about the direction?
Like, what if the show just sucked?
Because you love the first
show-
game so
okay,
much,
well,
and the
okay,
show didn't
okay,
match.
So the first game is incredible. Like if you guys want to go and play a game that has a good story, it's an incredible story.
Play
It's
Undertale.
awesome. The show retconned it in all of the ways that it needed to be because they made a second game that was an atrocity. I mean, murdered all of the characters, and when I say murdered, I mean murdered
Spoiler.
with a
Right.
golf club.
I'm not playing that anymore.
You probably didn't know that.
I didn't know.
Anyways,
didn't even
well,
know
this
that.
is
Why are
why I
you saying
said
that,
somebody
dude?
say something about Moneyball to get me off this
Back
topic.
to FIFA.
So, anyways, sports, baseball. What? Oh, we had a letter from Jakob.
Oh,
Is that right?
We did.
have
We
a
did.
letter
For
from
We
season
got,
two.
we got a letter from Jakob. Yeah,
Is that-
so it's the
and
first letter of season 2.
I have this, I think, somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jakob is?
Yeah.
He's
Well,
our- he's like
you find
our,
out, let me explain. Jakob
yeah.
is our financier.
Oh, I heard he's responsible for all this.
He is, but he hates our guts. For some reason, we still have like a great business relationship, but he despises us. So he constantly calls in and leaves us messages to mock us.
Always.
And because he pays the bills, we are forced to buy
So
off.
it is a
But
real person,
It is
right?
actually in our contracts. Oh, totally. It is
Unfortunately.
actually in our contracts that we are required to read these on air.
Is he your dad?
No.
No.
It could
You
be
don't
your
know.
dad.
You've never met
All
him.
right, so for the bring the audience up to scale, so Jakob is he pays the bills.
He
for the
pays the
show.
bills.
He watches and he pretty much just bashes us all the time. If you are a more woke person, you will like Jakob a lot.
Yeah,
you'll love
if you lean left, you'll probably
it's the
appreciate
only,
what
only
Jakob's saying.
reason
Sounds
we,
like I need
we
to
read
leave.
his letters. Occasionally he'll send in a little voice memo. I might hit
But
you
yeah,
guys with
so
one of
if
those
you
in a
if you
second.
wonder why we constantly do this, is because it's he actually baked it into our contracts that if he
contract, yeah.
ever gives us
Yes.
material, we are required to read it on air.
I wanted to wear.
So without
Yeah.
further ado, we
Yeah.
have a letter from Jakob.
Hit it.
Hit us with
Try to do
Liam.
the accent. I can't remember last time. I did.
Yeah, so it's like
While I
this.
could lambast you guys as usual for picking a movie about straight white men playing the third whitest sport after golf and NASCAR, I will say I did enjoy the backstory of how Billy Bean went from playing baseball to becoming Brad Pitt. I mean, talk about a glow up. Anyways, if you have to talk about sports movies, they have to either be about the WNBA or football. And before you ask, real football, not that American pig trash you like. Big Premier League guy. Oh, and since your guest is whiter than Carrot Top after taking a bath and bleach, I'm spending his guest fee on my next spa trip. Oh, that's so mean. He just comes in. He's so rude.
He's the rude
honestly.
guy, but he's incredibly wealthy. I don't know how he made his money.
We're trying to grow the
We've been
podcast.
trying to figure out. We've been looking, digging for dirt on this guy for years. And other than him just being like a total tool,
Yeah.
we haven't found any reason that we can I don't know, get Interpol to
It's
get
interesting
him.
because like you'd think as the podcast grows he'd make more money, but he seems to be actively rooting for the demise of us.
He is. He is.
He hates his investments.
So one of these days we'll get out from underneath the boot of Jakob, and,
And
he's
then
going
we'll
to
really
create. He's
flap
going
our
to create a
wings.
competing
There's gonna be
podcast
competing
that
contests.
that
Will-
just bashes.
Will
Yeah.
he ever come on the show?
Probably not.
No.
He did here. Look, okay. Also, I'll
See,
pull
the
up
thing
a,
is, like, he would have to get off of his yacht.
Do you have a
and
picture
he
of this
doesn't
guy?
do that frequently.
I have a
We'll show you
voicemail from
offline.
him, a voice message from him.
The only time he ever comes off his yacht is to go to Whole Foods and buy kale. He's a very strange man.
Yeah.
Where does he live?
Honest to God.
Oh,
He
okay.
just circumnavigates the globe. I think he said something about like international waters.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
he's
that was
safe
about.
there
but, like,
or something
no.
about him it being legal.
He's based out of here.
Yeah, this is horseshit.
Yeah, I know. We agree.
All right, here we go.
Again,
Here we go.
we're legally obligated to read it.
This is
Unfortunately.
This is a message from Jakob from the other day.
Hey guys, wow, I can't believe you guys actually made it through all the Disney movies. If your opinions weren't all horrible, I would tell you good job. So I watched the Mulan movies and I couldn't stop crying in the live action one. I mean, the message just rings so true. Women just don't get listened to and it's so sad. Anyways, have fun with your sexist show, The Three White Idiots. Good
Hey,
luck
we're four
not
white
being
idiots
girls.
today.
Side note, who does the animated Mulan think he are? If I have to hear Nathanael say, oh, that movie was a 10 out of 10 one more time, I think I might just have to pull a Mulan myself and dress like a man just to make it onto your show so I can smack him. Oh, okay, bye, for real this time. You guys suck.
And that was
Is that how he always signs off?
Dude, he sucks,
kind of.
man.
You guys suck. That
He's
seems like
I
his
mean,
mantra.
That is the thing he has at the end of all of his emails.
he's not a nice man, but he's got a lot of money.
Yeah,
which is
you know what? At least we're putting it to good use. Better use than he does.
Gosh. Yeah.
Anyways.
Circling back
Circling
to
back to Moneyball.
to the movie. So we've all kind of had a few nitpicks. Does anybody have a nitpick they want to kind of mention?
I already gave my
No, they're
opinion.
good.
I don't have much more to say about it. It was a well-made movie that I found not like draggingly tedious, but that was like, there were a couple scenes that, honestly, the scene that moved me the most emotionally was right at the end when Jonah Hill's like, hey, look at this guy, and he's like, you can see like just the anguish on his face as he scrambles to get back to first.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the other players are like, yeah, man, get around the bases.
It is really
and I was
cool.
like, did that really happen? Is that like a real moment in
It
baseball?
sure looks like real film.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
looked
that-
like real film, and I was like,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
That's a real team and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would
That's
assume
like-
How
that
can
was
you
really cool.
How can you not get romantic about
but then
baseball?
also I was like,
easily.
that's not something that they came up with. That was just a real thing that happened.
yeah.
No, I mean, again, I loved it overall, and I had a few nitpicks which I voiced. I think that Brad Pitt's character can be a little smug at times, where I'm like, I think he's definitely become too cool. Like his head is too big.
Oh man, I
Like, he's
disagree.
knocking
I think he's
people
Like
so
physically, he looks like a
perfect.
bobblehead.
He's knocking people over.
I
And
think he's
I
so
think it
charming.
kind of worked. It worked because he had to sell out.
Can we get a picture of like what Billy Bean actually looks like?
Yeah, he looks great.
Here,
He is
How
like
Brad
he
Pitt
is
does
like
he
a-
look?
I mean, is anybody? But he is a handsome guy.
He actually is. Yeah,
He's like one of those young, handsome baseball owners, like Theo Epstein.
Okay. Let
me see.
I can see. What,
No, you can't.
I don't
You're
remember
not
Brad Pitt wearing glasses.
Yeah.
0 out of 10.
Well, that's now.
So unrealistic.
I mean, that was 21 years ago.
Sure.
So you should have seen him 21 years.
He looked exactly like Brad Pitt. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I run through a scene? Maybe I think only one scene.
This is what Billy Bean looks like. I'm showing.
That's
the audience.
arguably my
There you
favorite scene that we didn't touch on.
Yeah.
really.
Okay. So let's get to favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes, favorite quotes. Can we just like run through a
Do
couple?
it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Love
Like,
it.
hit us
So
with some of your favorite
I think
moments.
my favorite scene is the scene where Jeremy Giambi is dancing in the locker room.
Oh, yes.
And it's also correlated to my favorite quote, which is, "That's what losing sounds like."
yes.
It is
And
so
again,
good.
to go back to my Angels in the Outfield analogy, it's like a serious version of Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah, it's so good, dude. It makes me laugh so hard every time I watch it. And then the other, like, not trying to be funny part is when he throws the bat.
And it just makes all that noise.
how loud and how long it's
Yes.
spinning. like,
Yeah. The
He
amount
threw
of
it right into the China
Yeah,
China
the amount of
cabinet.
tension in that room too, because
Yeah.
you know Billy Bean doesn't interact with the team, right?
Yeah,
So when he
right.
comes in there, it's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this guy
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
in here?
yeah.
And when he tells him to get down, not get down, get down,
Yeah.
and he throws that thing, it is just. And then he just throws the cooler on his way
It's
out
the
too.
best.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
the best.
hilarious.
He's right behind me, isn't he? Scene in movies.
Then how about him doing that, and then like what? 3 weeks later, he comes into the locker room. He's like, "I know you don't look like a winning team, but you are one." I was thinking about him, like, great
He's like-
motivational speech
He's like,
there.
now play like it out
Yeah,
there.
I was like, great speech, MLK. Jeez.
Go team.
I think we said that same thing. But he's
Yeah.
like, now
We're like-
play like it.
He's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's like it's like he's him trying
He's
to
got-
give a motivational
He's got Jonah
speech,
Hill
but
right behind him, like
he's
he's lurking in
terrible.
the shadow. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of awesome scenes in this movie. It's hard not to pick the one where they go into the analysts room with all the different player analysts, and they school them. And honestly, just to see those guys talking and be like, "Who's Fabio?" It's like, "Oh, he's a shortstop for Seattle."
Yeah.
And just like it's an amazing scene. But
I think that was my favorite scene when he's just like,
Yeah.
You want me to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I
he's
point
like-
to you.
and that all together is
Oh, okay.
this divided by
183,
3, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
3.66. And the one guy's like, no, you need to carry the one.
Yeah. And Grady, the one scout that hates everything,
Yeah.
he's just like, what the fuck are we doing here? This is just so dumb.
Half-ass research on Grady.
Oh, yeah.
Real guy.
Oh, yeah. I looked this up.
I would presume most of the characters
Did
are
get
real
fired.
guys.
Yes.
Came back and worked with Billy.
Yeah.
Like 8 years later, 7, 8 years later. So
Full circle.
full circle. Pretty cool.
Nice.
Half-ass research.
Yeah.
also, the guy who played David Justice is a guy from the minor leagues that they called Young Justice because of his likeness to the real deal.
Nice.
Wow, really good.
I did look up
That's
a
pretty
picture of
cool.
him, and I was like, wow, that does really look
Yeah.
like him.
He
Yeah.
was- good.
He's an actual baseball player. That was him hitting in a batting cage.
Yeah, he was
I mean,
crushing those.
Yeah,
He
like
was.
in the
Yeah.
batting cage,
The
he's
sound of the-
ripping it, and I was like, okay,
I was
this
like, oh my
guy.
goodness.
That's
Like,
related.
Chris
he's supposed to
Pratt's
be
not doing
37.
that.
He's destroying those.
That's one of
balls.
the, that's one of the
Jeez.
things the scout says that makes me laugh. Where he's just like, you can hear the pop, just a different sound.
Yeah,
off
it's
the
just
bat.
a pop up.
He hits the ball and it pops,
It pops.
off the bat.
You hear it throughout the
You can just
ballpark.
hear it
Yeah.
throughout the ballpark, and it's an amazing scene. But my favorite scene in the whole movie is that opening sequence.
Yeah.
I think that just how it's put together, that is like what sucks you into movie. Like if you can do that well, this is what makes like all the Lord of the Rings so compelling. Not just that, the fact that they're the greatest movies
I
ever
do
made,
think.
but
I mean, when
the
Gandalf threw that strike to strike out Saruman was just
That's peak.
That was absolutely peak.
I just mean
man.
that those movies focused really hard on having an opening that gripped you. All three of them. They were like, we're going to put a max amount of effort to not just jumping back into the story. We're going to all three of them end with like start with some kind of a prologue, some kind of a this happened before, but it's extremely engaging and exciting. And this is like one of the best startings to a movie, in my opinion,
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
sets
What did
you
the-
off into the story right away, and you're immediately engaged. You're like, well, what are we gonna do now? I feel like this guy. Now I'm feeling despaired because I'm going to my owner and he's not giving me more money, and now I'm a little nervous because I've got a daughter who lives here and she's like wanting to know if I'm going to lose my job. I'm like nobody believes in me. And like I'm going to see this other GM, and he's just like, "Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to work. We don't have anybody that you can afford." And I'm like, "Oh, well, this feels terrible. Like, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Hey, math." And I'm like, "All right, awesome.
Bingo.
Let's go."
Let me get my calculator out real quick. Idiot.
let me follow along. All right, I got this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the opening scene to me is one of the greatest openings I think in movies, where it really just. I instantly want to watch the movie over when I see that opening.
I was
scene.
smiling right from the get go.
And
like, I was
we
just
both
excited.
said that out
Yeah,
loud.
I
I was
did.
like, I'm so happy right now,
Yeah.
and you were just like, I'm already smiling.
Yeah,
over
smiling
here.
the whole
It's a great movie, man.
It's all right.
No, my favorite scene has to be the scene where he brings Peter Brand into the room with the scouts for the first time. I know we've talked about it at length.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into it more, but it
was great.
The banter, when you have 12 guys in a room, that is so hard to get right with the banter and just a bunch of old men in there
Yeah.
too. And when he's writing those names down with the
Just
Sharpie
like,
on there, slapping them up there, Jeremy Giambi. And he's like, everyone's like, what are you doing? You're a little thick around the waist. You know what I mean? And then when he says Scott Hatterberg, everyone's like, who?
That's right. Sounds like an Oakland A
Yeah,
already.
sounds like an Oakland A already.
Sounds like
Yeah.
an Oakland A
David
already.
Justice, old man Justice. What? Oh my goodness! Getting the dog days of August, he was struggling to hit his weight.
There's
you know?
so many quotable lines.
Yeah.
that one off.
So many
Yeah,
things.
that scene was very good.
out of
That
How do you
and then
like him?
just one other scene I wrote down that really stuck out to me was when Billy fired Grady. Grady calls him out into the hallway, and he said, "You're when he goes, what you're doing you're discounting what scouts have done for 150 years." And and Billy, he goes, "You're doing this because someone got it wrong on you. This is like your
Yes.
vendetta to get back." And he goes, "Stop, my turn, my
Yeah,
turn."
great.
And he goes, "I've sat in those living rooms with you, and you look into those parents' eyes, and you
Yes.
say, 'When I know, I know,' and you don't. You don't. That is such great acting
great one.
right
It's
there.
a great one.
That scene
And
is
then
super powerful because also Grady kind of gets it right. Like Grady is kind of hitting it on the head when he's like, no, this is about you.
Yeah, right.
And which is kind of the truth. It's the truth of the story.
100%. Yeah.
And so you're wondering, you're like, well, Billy, what are you going to say back? And then he comes back with something that you believe as well, that you're like, wow, but he's kind of got a point. It might be his story, but maybe his story is the right one.
But also that scene I wrote down Billy, big anger guy. Because what does he do after Grady puts his arms on him, says "fuck you" and you're fired.
Yeah,
he runs down the hall. There's a little Asian kid playing Halo in his office. And he goes, "Kubota, you ever played baseball? I played t-ball when I was you're the new head scout."
That's a great one, man. That's an underrated scene. That one's so
Hilarious.
I
Hilarious.
also think that the scenes with Philip Seymour Hoffman, which I mean, how many times has Philip Seymour Hoffman done this where you're like, oh yeah, he's in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
all of the
he's
time.
right here.
Like he's in that movie Red Dragon, which is like this prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and you're like, oh yeah, he's a reporter in this movie.
Pops up in a Mission Impossible
Yes.
movie.
That's why I was like, why is the bad guy from Mission Impossible playing like managing the A's? I guess you have to do something.
But
between,
he's-
you know,
Why is that guy from the Hunger Games here?
But
Oh
his talking, like their scenes of dialogue together are, I mean, those are like two elite talents as far as acting goes. But I also think it's a credit to the writing of the characters, because all of the characters in this movie act how you would imagine that they would act, which I know it sounds really a simple thing to say, but like this is the problem with modern movies, is that
well, it does help that it's based off of real, actual people, and so you'd be like,
No.
hey, what was this guy like?
you know, but like well, we all know, like a modern movie would have like his daughter coming in and be like, this is what you should do, Dad, and he's like, okay, and like, and then like, she saves the day.
His daughter, who's actually his son, coming in and like,
Oh, here we go.
please, don't even know me. You know that's exactly.
Here we go.
Why you booing me? I'm right.
Went there.
I'm right. I gotta put that on the soundboard. Why you booing me? I'm right.
No, but what my final point on that is just that modern movies write like they write as if they're monster movies, and what I mean by that is like a monster movie writes to accomplish a purpose. Like, hey, we need King Kong to fight Godzilla. Now the story is going to happen, and it's not really going to be all that important. It's just some things are going to happen here to make that happen. Some things they're going to happen so that Godzilla fights King Kong. And modern movies have an agenda like that, where they're saying, well, I want this to happen. This has got to happen, and I just want the characters to act how I want them to act to make that happen. And then you watch the movie, and you're like, why are these characters? None of them are realistic. Nobody acts like this in real life. These are the silliest characters I've ever seen. And then if you establish a character to be a certain way, you change them out of nowhere, like we see with Luke Skywalker, just to be like, hey, most hopeful guy ever. Now all of a sudden he's just useless because it's just to aid where we want to take the story. We're not going to explain it at all. It's just terrible character writing. Whereas in this movie, even though it's pre-established, I mean, it's based off a true story, you're telling all those characters from scratch. I mean, we don't even know if, like, I doubt any of those interactions were how they were depicted in the movies. But in every scene, you get what Philip Seymour Hoffman is saying. Like, there's not a point that you're like, "Oh, you idiot, do it." You're like, no, he's sitting there, and he's like, one of my favorite parts is when he's like, why? He's like, why isn't Hatterberg at first? He's like, not my first baseball game.
Yeah, not my first base. Scott Hatterberg can't play first base.
He's like, how do you know that? Not my first baseball game.
Yeah.
And then he just like he brings all these points, and he just goes, I just disagree with you,
Yeah.
plain and simple. And then you feel for that as a coach, where he's just sitting there like, hey, I matter here. That's when he comes to him. He's like, I think that you should care about the head GM or whoever he's playing. Like, you should care about my salary. I can't do this off of a 1-year salary. And he just dismisses him. Billy's kind of a jerk, and he's just like, we'll talk to you later. And he like walks past him. And if anything, that's kind of a failure, because you see it comes back and bites him because he doesn't play his team the way he wants to early on. So I thought that every character, even characters like Grady, what makes those scenes so well is that it's believable. Like you're like, that's how those guys would act. I'm not mad at them per se. I understand why they're acting that way.
I also enjoyed the scene where they're firing all the guys. So they let go of Pena, and then they're talking to Art and
Giambi.
Yeah, they're talking to Art, and they're like, you can't start Pena.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start Pena. No, you can't start Pena.
Yeah.
He plays for Detroit now.
Yeah.
Like, Jeremy, come in.
Come in, yeah.
Yeah, you're out of here.
Yeah, you're out
And then
of here,
as soon as he
too.
walks out, so Giambi's also off the team.
And then he named off a list of players who did exist. I didn't mean he was like, and da 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 da. They're all going
They're all
down.
gone,
They're
so-
all heading down. And it's like he's like, what the hell
Yeah.
are you doing, man?
He's got the power. He's got the authority to do
I
it.
love this scene. That scene when you're talking about, like, where he's like, not my first baseball game. When at the end they like go silent, and he like Billy Bean stands up and he goes, great talk. Every time I talk, I'm reinvigorated from my love of the game.
Baseball.
And he walks away.
Now, I will say, I feel like after that point, you don't see the only time you see Art is when he puts Scott in to hit the home run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like there should have been some resolution between Billy and Art in either direction.
Well, I thought so too until I looked up. Was Art Howe actually a good manager? No.
Okay, so
He had
apparently
2
he's-
winning seasons his whole time with the Oakland A's, and he has an under 500 career record as a manager, and he coached for like 15 years.
So it was not a very good manager.
No. So that's my opinion why they probably didn't. Because he probably wasn't really interviewable. It was more what they were doing than what he was doing.
Sure.
Like in
Yeah.
the year before, they had so much talent. Like it's your fault if you're not good. So that's my personal opinion. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Overall, though, I put this as a phenomenal movie. It's funny. There are a lot of times where I'm like, sports movies not my thing. But then I think about I love most sports movies I watch. It's a problem because I want to just be like, this is one of the best sports movies I've ever watched. I want to be like Liam, but I'm smarter than that.
Wow.
But I think of all you got movies like Remember the Titans and Rudy and
Rudy.
they're
Miracle.
just,
Air Bud.
Miracle
Again.
Air Bud 2.
Invincible.
Air Bud. 4.
3.
Airbuds 3, Airbuds 4.
My point
How
being,
many? While you keep talking, I'm going to look up how many Airbuds
The
there were.
one Air Bud movie with the little dogs,
Yes,
the puppies,
the litter.
Yes.
air puppies.
that's not a golden retriever. That's a golden receiver.
So he did play
definitely one of
football.
them.
Classic.
Yeah,
he did
Classic.
play
definitely
football.
He did.
played
Soccer,
football.
football, volleyball. He was all over the place.
So here's my hot take.
Oh, you already had a
I don't even think it's that hot. Moneyball is in my Mount Rushmore of sports movies.
Really?
Yes.
Hold on,
Yes.
wait. You said it's in your Mount Rushmore
Moneyball is in
of
my Mount
movies?
Rushmore of sports movies.
Sports movies. Okay, well at least you narrowed it
Yeah,
down.
at least you
It's
prefaced it.
Movies.
But you
Because
like
Rushmore is 4, right? That
Yeah.
means you can only have 4.
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so
So you're saying 4 sports movies of all time?
It's in there.
it's in your top 4 sports movies of all time.
Can I name 4 sports movies? Does Jerry Maguire count? It's like
This-
sports
well,
adjacent.
this is an interesting
It's
question.
like,
It's
it's,
asked
like
this
Die, it's like
is-
Die Hard in Christmas
Yeah,
movies.
it's,
gonna go
it's not
no.
a sports movie.
Well,
Yeah.
this is an interesting idea to bounce off. But last kind of thought here before we wrap up. How sporty does a sports like is Cool Runnings a sports movie? This is based off of a
Yes.
real
Yeah,
thing
I
that
think
happened in
so.
the Olympics.
Yeah, it's based off a real thing, and it's about the sport and the players who were playing the sport. I think that to your point, you don't have to be showing a ton of the actual sport being played
Yeah.
for it to be a sports movie.
Correct. Yeah, totally.
But it has to be about the team, the players,
Yeah.
the sport in some way. It has to be about that, and this is about baseball, the playing of baseball, the managing of a team of baseball. So even though they don't show a lot of baseball, it is a baseball movie. It is definitively a sports movie.
Totally. Like Jerry Maguire is
It's
about
not about
his
that.
relationship.
He's an
but
agent.
he's also
he's not
related, yeah.
involved in the sport.
Show me the money.
Oh man!
All right.
It's definitely up there in sports movies.
So here we go. You want your Mount Rushmore? I got your Mount Rushmore, buddy. Airbud. Airbud Golden Receiver. Airbud
it's the
World
name,
Pup.
wow.
Airbud 7th Inning Fetch. And then Greg's favorite, Airbud Spikes Back.
That's
Nice. That's it.
and then all
That's
his,
5,
and,
but all out.
And then apparently all his kids were like, sports not for me. So you have Air Buddies, Snow Buddies, Space Buddies,
What?
Santa Buddies, Spooky Buddies, Treasure Buddies, Super Buddies.
Wait, all the same dog?
Wow.
No,
No,
that's
those
just
are the
kids.
buddies.
Oh.
Those are the kiddos.
So
he's
only 2 of those came out in theaters, and that was the
He's a busy man.
So he's played basketball,
You got
football, soccer, baseball,
Boing, boing,
and
boing.
volleyball.
Nice.
So there you go. Volleyball made the
That
cut,
is
Greg.
insane. There's
I'm really happy
6
about that.
buddies.
Okay, but only 2 of them came out in theaters. Everything else was straight to DVD, and it's Disney. So
Okay, final thought. I have to get the. I got 2 quotes. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Throw it, Liam.
2 quotes.
Yeah.
Why did he sigh so aggressively?
Robin Wright was in this movie.
Wow, she was. Yeah, we got to call out
was she
Robin
the
Wright.
mom?
Legend.
She was the mom. Claire Underwood.
Dude, she has a great filmography.
can I just say, on behalf of Jakob, there were like 2 women in this film, and one of them was a child. This movie is unacceptable.
I think he would probably agree with you.
Now,
I'm
and
surprised
that's
he
why
didn't write about
that's why Greg likes it so much. It's all coming together, man.
that. Okay, here's my 2 quotes. Rapid fire.
Yeah.
There's rich teams. There's poor teams.
And
And
then
then there's
the
50 feet of crap. And then there's us. Great. The other one I liked was when he was trying to explain to Jonah Hill about firing. He's like, would you rather get a bullet to the head or 5 to the chest and bleed out?
That's pretty good too.
Had to get
Yeah.
those in. I
Jonah
love
Hill's
those.
like, those my only
Yeah,
options.
those are my only
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
My least favorite scene was when they're doing those trades and Jonah Hill has to be talking to the GM and he's so so incompetent, not confident, like stuttering the whole time.
Is that with Rincon? where
Yeah,
they're in the
and
same
he's
room?
on the phone. Remember, he's on the phone with the GM and he goes, and like, closes his fist. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it was pretty awkward.
I
That
was
was
loser.
Oscar nominated.
Oscar nom for closing the fist. Bum. Fat.
Liam's getting some heat for putting it in his top 4.
Well, from who?
From Marco.
Oh, for goodness sake, Marco, you don't know. You don't
All
know
right,
anything about anything.
so we are going to wrap up our shows here with a really fun, I guess, fun new
Segment.
Segment. There we go. We are going to have Mr. Liam Maxwell.
But instead of Mad Libs, we'll be Angry Cons.
Ask our guest.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you
Really
for
good.
appreciating
No,
my joke.
really good,
He
really
will
good.
do Mad Libs with our guest, and afterwards Nathaniel will read the Mad Libs.
I don't even know what these words mean.
So
and,
you don't read them. All you do is you
I just
ask
say,
him,
give me a
ask
noun.
him for the thing.
Wow,
Yes. Yeah.
I can't believe he doesn't know how to.
No, I know how to do
Liam
it. I'm just saying
Maxwell
I don't know what
has
an
never
adverb
mad-libbed.
is.
It ends
You
in
know
ly.
what an adverb
ends
is?
in ly. Ends in ly.
Adverb.
All right, so
like,
ask
really,
So start asking Gavin.
superbly,
can't look at
so
this.
Yeah, can't.
Are you,
Are you
good?
Adverb. Remember, kids. Adverb ends in ly.
I'm gonna need your help.
Okay.
Give me
I
a
can
noun.
help you.
Whale.
In the meantime, chat, give us your top sports movies. Let's hear
Give
it.
us your Mount
So
Rushmore of
I
sports
would just say
movies.
my top sports movie is Remember the Titans, 100%.
I think that might be
Focus.
mine. Plural noun. Plural noun.
Whales.
I can't use no reusing things. No reusing things is cheating.
Doorbells.
Wow, this is gonna
It's gonna be a really good Mad Lib.
This is gonna be unfilmable.
So I'm not big on sports movies. Remember the Titans is just one of my favorite movies of all time. Period. I really like Angels in the Outfield, so I would put that
verb
up there.
ending in ing. Careful.
Clean verb, radio
We're
clean
going
verb,
to my
radio
PG,
clean
PG.
verb
You
ending
know my went to,
in
right?
ing.
Yeah, I think I can guess. I see the look in
keep
your
it
eyes.
relatively
PG-13.
PG-13.
Cleaning.
Nice. Good man.
Well, okay, you took it very literally.
Yeah, that's about as PG as it gets. Plural noun.
Another one.
Yeah.
Another one.
Crackers.
Can't say that anymore.
Wait, like
Well, context.
City.
It's okay when we say it.
rapid fire here.
Columbine.
Jesus.
Wow. Okay, we can.
Rimini.
Well,
Woof.
Plural noun.
Sheds.
Children.
Jesus.
it's
Adjective.
going downhill. It's a
Adjective.
great segment.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Noun.
Computer.
Number.
88.
Oh, you didn't go with the good number?
I know.
Noun.
It's PG. That's acceptable PG-13.
Well, Greg's here. You know,
you're right,
I don't
right.
want to get yelled at.
Fair enough.
I'm never gonna be welcome back here.
Thank you for respecting me.
Noun.
Another noun. Candle.
Adjective.
Smelly.
That's an adverb, isn't it, Nathaniel?
That's a
Verb.
No, you can use that as an adjective.
Verb.
jumping.
Verb. Another one.
Verb.
Crawling.
So you jumped and then you hurt your ankle. Now you're crawling. Ah!
Literally.
Plural noun.
Oh my god. Trying to think of something fun. Phones.
No, that's the fun thing.
Oh, that was
It's
really
always
fun, Gavin.
Really
Thanks.
fun.
Verb.
Well, I have fun on my phone.
That's the fun thing about Mad Libs. It's always
guest.
fun. Verb ending in ing.
Be a little silly. Come on.
Just know,
Boinking.
Gavin, that this is going to
Boinking.
determine whether we ever do this again.
Yeah,
That's
well,
okay.
I got my money. I'm good.
Number.
69.
There you go.
There we go.
That's fun.
Adverb.
Adverb.
Ends in ly.
Really. We already had that
There you
earlier.
Default. Noun.
Noun. Hippo.
Love that.
Adjective.
Always gonna get a laugh.
Always a good time. Adjective.
And then you're done.
Creamy.
All right, Liam, giving the title a
Does
glance.
anyone know where my head's at?
What kind of music do we need for this?
Space theme.
Space theme.
themes.
What accent would you like me to read this in?
Read it like you're in an astronaut helmet.
I mean, like we can give you a megaphone if we want to
We'll
do
put-
that.
we'll put green screen
give,
into
give
that.
me the megaphone. Give me the
Okay,
megaphone.
hold
Can you
on.
give it? Did you figure out how to give it to different mics?
Oh shoot, I don't know. It might only go to Liam's mic.
All right, Liam, give me your mic.
Wait, why's that?
I just
Check
haven't
1 2.
perfected.
Check 1 2.
I usually don't use a megaphone.
Hello, hello.
I haven't put
Test,
it on
test.
yet. Okay, here we go.
Check. There we go.
Okay. Here we go. All right, so we are about to read. This is the.
This will
don't-
determine whether we ever do this again.
We're trying a
Gavin,
new segment
right now.
called Mad Libs with guests, and Nathaniel is about to read us.
It says copyrighted
his-
material. Are we going to get?
No, we'll be fine.
Who are our sponsors?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
In 1981, the U.S. launched the first real space whale. It was named Columbia and was piloted by 2 brave doorbells. They had practiced cleaning for 2 years and were expert crackers. Okay, that one worked well. Columbia took off from Columbine using its powerful first-stage jets and soared off into the weird blue computer. At an altitude of 88 feet, it went into orbit around the candle. For people watching from Earth, it was a smelly sight to jump. Who could really crawl that there were 2 phones in space? It was mind-boinking. There you go.
What do you use that
After
for now?
69 orbits, nice. The shuttle landed really at Air Force Hippo. It was a creamy day for the U.S. space program.
Creamy.
Well done, guys.
Good job,
Well done.
Gavin.
Well done. That was
good.
That was a good segment.
We got there. We got there.
I think you should do a rate the guest at the end of the show, just live, just straight away, just 1 out of
Do
5.
the applause meter.
Last thoughts from the chat.
Everyone, say in the chat whether you like Gavin and want him back.
Some chat, yeah. How do you like Gavin? Also, we got some saying Rocky. Remember the Titans?
Oh, Rocky, yeah, Rocky for sure. Rocky for sure.
Mighty
Okay,
Ducks
so
was thrown out there.
here's my Rushmore.
Okay.
Here's my Rushmore.
Rocky 4.
Okay.
Here's my Rushmore.
that the one with-
Remember the Titans and any 3 of the Rocky movies.
I
Honestly,
can't argue
all
that
like
too
5
much.
of the Rocky movies
6.
are
There were 6,
pretty.
and they were all good.
They're all pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. I say
Happy Gilmore.
Southpaw.
Underrated one. Southpaw's great. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Do you like Southpaw?
You would like that.
Yeah.
I-
Warrior.
I can feel it.
Warrior. Tom Hardy.
Warrior.
Warrior with Tom
Oh,
Hardy.
Hardy's okay.
Is Gladiator technically a sports movie?
No.
Gladiator is not a
It's
sports
blood
movie.
sport.
Could be.
A slippery
It's
slope.
I am
Slippery
going to
slope.
say that that's a sports movie.
Slippery slope. Okay. Well,
Is
for
the,
including
what's
that.
the one where
What do we
what's
consider
the
a
one with
sport?
Arnold Schwarzenegger where he's got to do like the is it Running Man?
I don't know.
Okay,
I think of the
What do
one
we
where
consider
he's
what is it? No, there's
Fight
one
to the death
there's one of
is
those
a sport.
dystopian movies where they have to do like roller derby and there's like a giant ball that kills everyone.
Oh, that's called rollerball.
Yeah, rollerball. There you go.
that's-
Rollerball.
nice.
That's up there.
Running Man.
There's a
I'm sorry,
movie,
I'm trying to think
there
of
is a
sports.
movie called
I don't watch a lot of
There
sports
is a
movies.
movie called Rubber where a tire comes to life and basically kills people. I don't know if you guys
I
have
think they
seen
made a
it.
sequel to that.
I hope so.
No chance. Dude, they're making sequels
Yes.
to everything.
They made
It's
8
insane.
Sharknadoes. What do you think they're gonna do?
Yeah.
Man?
They made Meg too.
Had to throw that in there.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Electric
it was
Boogaloo.
great spending time with you. Thank you,
Was.
Gavin,
Wait. What are we
for
doing?
hanging with us.
Do we know what we're doing next time?
I am bringing you guests next time, and they will pick a movie, and we will let you guys know what that movie is.
That means they don't know.
No, that means he hasn't picked a guest yet.
Yeah,
I
we-
might see you in 2 weeks.
We will see you guys in
Gabo,
2 weeks. We appreciate
Thursday
you.
available.
See, the thing is, we'll never have Jakob on because we know he's going to pick Ghostbusters 2016, and I will literally physically shrivel up and die if we have to watch that movie again.
Till next time.
Oh, that's funny.